Chapter 212. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Zhuang Manor. A copy of the Apricot Roll ranking was sent to Grand Tutor Zhuang and Royal Prince, and Grand Tutor Zhuang already knew the results of the top two. Other than Royal Prince, there weren't any outstanding candidates in the Zhuang family. Therefore, Grand Tutor Zhuang put the Apricot Roll aside when it was sent over. Royal Prince didn't look at it either. He had absolute confidence that he would get first place. He only asked, "Is there someone called Xiao Lulang on the roll?" Wu Yang replied, "Yes, he's tied for first place with the Royal Prince." "Oh." Royal Prince glanced sideways. Wu Yang handed the roll over again. Royal Prince and's gaze fell on Xiao Liulang's name. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "This Xiao Lulang is a bit out of my expectations." Wu Yang was about to speak when the servant girl outside said, "Master, you're here?" Wu Yang quickly retreated to the side and bowed to Grand Tutor Zhuang, who was walking in. Grand Tutor Zhuang waved his hand, and Wu Yang respectfully retreated. Royal Prince stood up and greeted with a pleasant expression. "Grandfather." Grand Tutor Zhuang replied in a low voice. Royal Prince walked around the desk and waited for Grand Tutor Zhuang to sit down on the chair with the official's hat before sitting down on another chair. A maidservant served the tea and then quickly left the room. The room was so quiet that only the sound of Grand Tutor Zhuang sipping his tea could be heard. Royal Prince asked, "Grandfather, why haven't you rested yet?" "I came to see you." Grand Tutor Zhuang put down the hot tea in his hand and looked at him with a serious expression. "Have you seen the Apricot Roll?" Royal Prince nodded. "I just saw it." Grand Tutor Zhuang said, "That Xiao Lulang is your classmate in the Imperial College?" "Yes." Royal Prince nodded again. Grand Tutor Zhuang had been in the bureaucracy for many years. He could recognize shocking information with just a glance. He looked at his grandson suspiciously. "You know him?" Royal Prince smiled and said, "Grandfather, do you still remember why I advised you to reopen the directorate?" Grand Tutor Zhuang furrowed his brows. "You said that the Empress Dowager lives in the home of an examinee. As long as that examinee enters the Imperial College, the Empress Dowager will also be brought to the capital. Could it be this person?" Royal Prince said, "That's right, it's him." Grand Tutor Zhuang's eyes turned cold. Royal Prince said, "Grandfather, don't get angry. He doesn't know Grand Aunt's identity. I speculated that my Grand Aunt had accidentally fainted in front of his house when she was stranded in that village. Someone in his family who knew medicine recognized my Grand Aunt's leprosy. They were afraid that they would be sent to Leprosy Mountain, so they hid my Grand Aunt and even treated her. It can cure leprosy." Grand Tutor Zhuang expressed his doubts. Royal Prince said, "I've seen Grand Aunt. Her leprosy has indeed been cured." Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't believe that there was anyone in the world who could cure leprosy. Compared to this, he was more willing to believe that there was a mistake in the information from the beginning. Perhaps the Empress Dowager didn't have leprosy at all. It just looked like it. Royal Prince didn't refute Grand Tutor Zhuang's guess. This wasn't important. The Empress Dowager had been cured. They only had to wait for them to deploy the situation in the capital and for the Empress Dowager to regain her memory. Then, their Zhuang family would be able to rise again. Grand Tutor Zhuang said in deep thought, "This examinee isn't simple." Royal Prince didn't care and said, "It's just a Hui Yuan. Grandfather, you don't have to take it to heart. I didn't put much effort into this exam." This was the truth. He really didn't put in all his effort. Xiao Lulang must have put in all his effort. Even so, to be able to tie with him for first place was still Xiao Liulang's ability. Royal Prince had never met anyone who could compete with him since he was young. Although the young Marquis of Zhaodu was famous, in his opinion, it was only because he didn't meet him. If he didn't go to Qin country to be a hostage for almost 10 years, who knows who would be the #1 genius in Zhaodu? Royal Prince continued, I plan to take this person for my own use. Grandfather, please don't touch him. It would be best if he could take him for his own use. After all, he knew too much. If he joined another camp, it would be disadvantageous for the entire Zhuang family. Grand Tutor Zhuang made a sound of agreement and said, "If you say so, then I won't touch him for now. However, you have to understand that you can't lose to him again in the court exam." The Wang family didn't want a random Jinsher. They wanted the number 1 Jinsher. I understand. Royal Prince An was confident of victory. He smiled faintly and said, "I will do my best in the court exam." Grand Tutor Zhuang had said everything that needed to be said. This grandson of his always made him worry less. He didn't say anything else and got up to leave. He suddenly thought of something and turned around. In the darkness, his seemingly turbid eyes revealed a shrewdness and sharpness that even young people couldn't compare to. "Do you have a sweetheart?" Royal Prince An was startled. "Grandfather, why do you say this?" Grand Tutor Zhuang said, "You aren't young anymore. Your aunt said that it's time to choose a marriage for you." Royal Prince An's eyes trembled slightly. "I haven't turned 20 yet. What's the rush?" In the country of Zhao, when a man turned 20, he would be considered an adult. Large families usually married after 20. Grand Tutor Zhuang said, "I'm not telling you to get married now. First, I wanted to ask for a marriage with imperial daughter Hui for you, but something happened to her. Your aunt has given up on this idea. If you have a girl that you like who is of equal status and has good looks, then tell your aunt." An image of a small figure wearing blue clothes, carrying a basket flashed through Royal Prince An's mind. His expression did not change as he said, "No." Grand Tutor Zhuang turned and left the room. Royal Prince An gave a small sigh. Of equal status? Marquis Ding and Fu seemed neutral, but the old Marquis and Marquis Xianping were the emperor's left and right arms. She and he would never be of equal status. As for her looks, he did not care about her looks, but his aunt would not allow him to marry a girl with a disfigured face who had been married before. "Huh." Royal Prince An laughed at himself. "What's the point of asking me?" While the entire capital was immersed in the shock brought about by the apricot roll, Gu Jinyu in the Ministry of Justice did not receive any news from the outside world. She was trapped in the interrogation room and could not eat or sleep well. His Majesty seemed to have made up his mind to deliberately break her will. He would not allow anyone to force a confession out of her, but he would also ignore her. She was alone and could not hold on any longer. She had not bathed for many days. She was not like Gu Jiao, who had grown up in the countryside. It was fine if she did not bathe for 10 days to half a month. She loved cleanliness. Fortunately, Imperial Concubine Shu's personal servant, Chi Mama, had come. The moment she saw Chi Mama, Gu Jinyu began to cry in grievance. All right. Imperial daughter, don't cry. If Imperial Concubine knew, her heart would ache. Chi Mama wanted to hug her and comfort her, but she could not stand the smell on Gu Jinyu's body. Chi Mama cleared her throat. In the end, she stood beside Gu Jinyu and handed her a clean handkerchief. Gu Jinyu took the handkerchief and choked. "Thank you for coming to see me, Mama." Chi Mama said, "Imperial Concubine wanted me to ask you what happened to you. Did you really break the Imperial Jade Seal, or did you do something else to anger His Majesty?" Gu Jinyu's eyes flashed when she heard this. "Imperial Concubine, did you hear some rumors?" Chi Mama had come to clarify the matter, so she spoke frankly. "Someone in the palace is saying that you did not invent the bellows. It was someone else." "Someone else? Who is it?" Gu Jinyu asked carefully. Chi Mama pondered. "I don't know. The rumor did not say who it was." Gu Jinyu lowered her head guiltily. Who had spread the rumor? His Majesty or the old blacksmith and carpenter? Didn't the three of them know about that girl? Gu Jinyu did not understand what was going on. She composed herself and asked, "Then, does Imperial Concubine believe it?" Chi Mama said, "Can Imperial Concubine believe it?" Gu Jinyu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, her efforts over the years had not been in vain. Chi Mama sighed, "But these rumors are strange. Think carefully. Did anyone touch your blueprints, or did you mention the bellows to anyone? It seemed that her father had not told Consort Shu that she and Gu Jiao had invented the bellows. He had not said anything for so long, so he probably would not say anything. Gu Jinyu hesitated whether to tell her about Gu Jiao. Consort Shu did not have a good impression of Gu Jiao. Firstly, Consort Shu did not like Consort Yao, and did not like her children. Gu Jinyu was respected in front of her mainly because she was talented and had helped the fifth prince so much. Secondly, Gu Jiao did not return to the Marquis's residence and disrespected old Madame Gu and her aunt, Consort Shu. Logically speaking, when she returned to the capital, she should have asked to see Consort Shu, but that girl did not. Gu Jinyu did not dare to bet that Consort Shu would trust her like her father did. What if Consort Shu wanted to seek confirmation from Gu Jiao? Or what if Consort Shu knew that His Majesty was actually biased towards Gu Jiao? Would Consort Shu still stand up for her? After weighing the pros and cons, Gu Jinyu finally gave up on the idea that Gu Jiao had stolen her inspiration. She shook her head. I don't know. I've never mentioned it to anyone. Chi Mama looked at Gu Jinyu without blinking. Then tell me, did you really invent the bellows? So Aunt still did not believe her? After she had helped the fifth prince with his homework and acted as his substitute examiner for so many times? Gu Jinyu laughed at herself in her heart, but on the surface she said aggrievedly, Mama, is it you who don't believe me, or Aunt who doesn't believe me? I swear to God that I invented the bellows. If I'm lying, I'll be struck by lightning. Chi Mama hurriedly covered her mouth with a handkerchief and said angrily, You can't speak carelessly. Her Majesty believes you. I asked too much. You don't have to take it to heart. Gu Jinyu said gently, Mama, you're doing this for Aunt's sake. I understand. Chi Mama sighed again. Her Majesty has already checked. The Imperial Jade Seal was broken long ago, and it was His Highness the seventh prince who broke it. His Majesty took his anger out on you because he believed those rumors and thought that someone else invented the bellows. The most important thing now is to prove that you're the true owner. Unfortunately, Her Majesty has no other way. These words reminded Gu Jinyu that she could no longer use the bellows to turn the tables, but she could use other things. She thought of what she saw in Jade Water Alley that day. Gu Jinyu narrowed her eyes. Mama, it's been too long since the bellows incident. I didn't keep an eye on it back then and left behind a more conclusive blueprint. I probably can't explain it clearly, but that's not all I have. Chi Mama was shocked. You have other things? Then why didn't you take them out earlier? Gu Jinyu smiled. I only thought of it these few days. I didn't give up on myself after being locked up here. Instead, I calmed myself down and asked what else I could do for the court. Then, I remembered something I accidentally made in the manor. What is it? Chi Mama asked excitedly. Glutinous rice mortar. Gu Jinyu had actually not witnessed its effects with her own eyes, but she could not care less now. She could only take a gamble. The mortar made with glutinous rice soup is extremely strong and is the best building material. If Mama doesn't believe me, you can go back to the palace and try. Aunt dotes on me, so I should repay Aunt well. I'm willing to give this credit to His Highness the fifth prince. Chi Mama hurried back to the palace and told Consort Shu about the glutinous rice mortar, especially emphasizing that this credit could be given to His Highness the fifth prince. However, Consort Shu was very cautious. She was not in a hurry to ask for credit from the emperor. Instead, she first called for the eunuchs to bring over a bucket of ordinary mortar. She also asked the small kitchen to mix a bucket of glutinous rice mortar, according to Gu Jinyu's method. After the two types of mortar solidified, Consort Shu asked someone to hit it with a hammer. Ordinary mortar shattered with a single hit, but glutinous rice mortar was as hard as a rock. Consort Shu smiled in surprise. Where's His Highness the fifth prince? Quick, hurry and call him back for this consort. I want to see the emperor. On the other side, little Jing Kong finished his day's homework at the Imperial College and arrived at the agreed location with his friends. Last time, Qin Chiyu promised to bring his two friends to visit the palace. After establishing a relationship with the crown princess's sister-in-law, The crown princess's sister-in-law finally agreed to let him bring his friends into the palace. If it were an adult, they would be curious about how he could enter the palace, but children would not. Sukanji informed the servant who came to pick him up. The servant knew of Qin Chuyu's identity and did not dare to disagree with the prince's invitation. Little Jing Kong went to the medical center and told Gu Jiao that he was going out to play and would take the Su family's carriage back later. Gu Jiao had no objections. Su Kanji and Qin Chuyu also often came to the medical center to play. The three of them happily got into Qin Chuyu's carriage. Digression. Jiao Jiao's #1 fan, Little Jing Kong, is here. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642826/113552217. HTML Genius. Memorize the website address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 213. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. Qin Chuyu brought his friends into the palace with the permission of the crown princess sister-in-law. She had already arranged everything for him and wouldn't expose his identity. There were 3 main doors in the palace. The middle door was the largest and tallest one. Usually, only the Empress Dowager, and the Crown Prince were allowed to enter through the middle door. The officials went to court through the side doors. Qin Chuyu was a prince and the Crown Prince's younger brother, so he could also go through the middle door. Su Tsong was 7 years younger than Qin Chuyu. He had never been to the palace, but he knew that his father went to court through the side door every day. When he entered through the middle door, he instantly felt that he could brag to his father when he went back. Little Jing Kong didn't understand this. He only felt that the palace was so big. Even the door was so big. It was like a giant monster with its mouth wide open. They walked into the monster's stomach. It was quite refreshing. The carriage drove all the way in and stopped outside the East Palace. The East Palace was the Crown Prince's bedroom. Normal princes weren't allowed to live in the East Palace, but Qin Chuyu was young. He could live wherever he wanted. The emperor didn't restrict him too much. Qin Chuyu jumped off the carriage first, followed by his 2 friends. Before picking up his friends, Qin Chuyu had already planned this trip with the help of the Crown Princess sister-in-law. They couldn't go to the Empress Dowager's bedroom, but they could play in the East Palace. Then they could play hide-and-seek in the Imperial Garden and go boating in the Imperial Liquid Pond. The servants had also been instructed not to come out and be an eyesore. Qin Chuyu took the lead and walked on the small path in the East Palace. He said proudly, "What do you think? The palace is very big, right? This is the East Palace, where the Crown Prince lives. However, the smartest, cutest, and smartest 7th Prince of the Zhao Nation also lives here. That's me, Qin Chuyu." Not far away, the servant who was sweeping the floor twitched his mouth. "7th Prince, you weren't so arrogant. Who taught you that?" Achoo! Little Jing Kong sneezed. The Eastern Palace was very big. There was a main hall, 2 side halls, and several small courtyards. One of the small courtyards was Qin Chuyu's personal space. The Crown Princess had people make a swing, a rock garden, and a wooden horse for him. Qin Chuyu was already tired of playing with them. Su Kanji also had these at home, and there were even more varieties than Qin Chuyu. The truth was that in order to prevent the princes from being distracted, there were actually fewer toys in the palace than there were among the commoners. Su Kanji was not too envious. Little Jing Kong was even less envious. the swing that his master made for him in the temple would swing from one end of the mountain to the other. There was also climbing. He and Jiao Jiao had climbed real mountains. What was so good about climbing a small fake mountain? Let's build a house. Little Jing Kong said. Recently, little Jing Kong was obsessed with architecture. Su Kanji nodded. Although he was 7 years old, he also wanted to play with mud. Qin Chiu, who actually wanted to dig a fake mountain cave with his friends, said, "All right." Qin Chiu went to the small woodshed to get 3 buckets and 3 small shovels. He happily went to dig mud. The palace servants' mouths twitched. Was it really appropriate for a prince to dig mud with others? Why don't we report this to the empress? This is too ridiculous, a young palace maid said. The young eunuch thought about it. The crown princess did not want them to interfere with the 7th prince, but digging mud was indeed too ridiculous. If the empress blamed them, the crown princess would be fine, but they, as servants, would be in trouble. With this thought, the young eunuch decided to go to Cunning Palace. After Consort Shu returned to the palace from the Ministry of Justice's prison, she immediately called a few eunuchs and had them boil a pot of glutinous rice soup according to Gu Jinyu's method. She also brought a bag of mortar that was usually used to build walls. After mixing the two evenly, Consort Shu ordered people to bring a few green bricks and paste them with glutinous rice mortar. To compare the effect, Consort Shu also had people use normal mortar to paste a few green bricks. When it dries, use a hammer to test it, Consort Shu said to the palace servants. Yes. The 2 young eunuchs responded and quickly brought over iron hammers. After the mortar in the green bricks dried, they used the hammers to fiercely smash the bricks. The result was that the glutinous rice mortar was more durable than normal mortar. No one knew if it had more long-term effects, but in terms of toughness, the glutinous rice mortar was far better than normal mortar. Consort Shu was not a lady of the boudoir. She had been in the palace for so many years. How could she not know how much benefit this mortar would bring to the Zhao kingdom? Not to mention the distant past, just the recent unrest at the border was caused by the heavy rain on the border walls. Many parts of the walls had collapsed. The Zhao kingdom's walls were too weak. They had to be rebuilt every few years. Even so, they were still prone to collapse. The 2 Jue were like tigers watching their prey and had disguised themselves as mounted bandits to invade. In the long run, the border would fall into greater danger. The Zhao kingdom was not a strong military power. The battle with the Qin kingdom a few years ago had greatly damaged the Zhao kingdom's strength. If they fought again, the price would be disastrous. The court was currently discussing how to quickly repair the walls. If they had this special mortar, then wouldn't they not have to worry about the walls collapsing? This contribution would not be less than the bellows. Consort Shu's heart faintly burned with excitement. She could not wait. Where is His Highness the 5th Prince? Has he not found him yet? Where did he go? A eunuch said. His Highness the 5th Prince left the palace. He said he had an appointment with a friend to recite poetry. He will probably return at night. Right now, Eunuch Li has already gone out to find His Highness the 5th Prince. I just don't know. I don't know if he can find him. His Highness the 5th Prince was the master. He could not report his whereabouts to the servants. Eunuch Li could only follow His Highness the 5th Prince's usual route and try his luck. Consort Shu thought about it. It was the same whether he was present or not. It was fine as long as he did it. Where is His Majesty? Consort Shu asked. The eunuch said, in the supreme liquid pool. Consort Shu touched the tassels on her hair bun. Oh, why didn't His Majesty go to the Empress Place today? The eunuch smiled. Perhaps he was tired of staying in the Empress Palace and came out to get some fresh air. His Majesty can only stay at Nyang Nyang's place. The most favored concubine in the harem was Consort Shu. She had never lost favor since she entered the palace. It was only after His Majesty returned from Jiangnan that he became obsessed with alchemy and would not be close to women for a short period of time. In the past, His Majesty would rest in her palace for 5 or 6 days every month. Consort Shu heard this and smiled faintly. Okay, let's go. Yes. The eunuch gave a meaningful look to the servant and took a bucket of glutinous rice mortar to the supreme liquid pool. The weather was fine. When Consort Shu arrived at the pavilion of the supreme liquid pool, the other concubines also came. There was nothing unexpected. His Majesty had not come to the harem for so long. Who would not suddenly appear like a fly eyeing the crack in an egg? What surprised Consort Shu was that the Empress and noble Consort Zhuang were also there. These two people did not need to compete for favor in the harem. What's more, His Majesty had been to the Empress' cunning palace for the past few days. Why would she come out at this time to compete with the other concubines? Consort Shu was not here to compete for favor today, so she did not mind there being more people. She stepped forward and saluted the Emperor and Empress Xiao. Your Majesty, Empress. Empress Xiao seemed to be in a good mood and smiled at her. The Emperor raised his hand. Rise. Consort Shu and noble Consort Zhuang saluted. Noble Consort Zhuang stood up and slightly returned the salute. After that, Consort Yu and the other concubines all saluted Consort Shu. Consort Yu automatically gave up her seat, and Eunuch Wei went to bring another chair for Consort Yu. Consort Shu was not in a hurry to sit down. Instead, she stood in front of the Emperor and said with a smile, Your Majesty, this concubine has something to offer Your Majesty. Oh. The Emperor stopped drinking his tea. Consort Shu asked the eunuch to bring a few separated and glued green bricks. Everyone looked at these green bricks and could not help but reveal a surprised expression. The Emperor was baffled. Consort Shu wants to offer me bricks? Consort Shu covered her face with a handkerchief and laughed. It's not bricks, it's the mortar in the bricks. She narrated how the fifth prince came up with the idea of using glutinous rice to make mortar last night. After that, she stood in place with a smile, waiting for the Emperor's praise. However, the Emperor did not. The pavilion suddenly fell into a strange silence. Everyone, including Empress Xiao and the other concubines, looked at her with a different expression. Consort Shu did not understand what had happened. She looked at Empress Xiao, noble Consort Zhuang, and the others. What's wrong? Empress Xiao frowned slightly. Noble Consort Zhuang covered her face with a handkerchief and laughed. Consort Shu looked at noble Consort Zhuang with a serious expression. Noble Consort, what are you laughing at? Noble Consort Zhuang could not help but laugh. She pointed to a bucket at Consort Yu's feet and said, Are you talking about this mortar? Consort Shu was startled. That color was obviously glutinous rice mortar. How could this be? She looked back at the eunuch she brought. Yes, the bucket of mortar was in his hands. Then, where did this bucket of mortar come from? As soon as this thought flashed through her mind, she heard a small sound. She turned her head and found that on the bridge of the imperial liquid pool, 3 little guys were squatting on the wooden bridge and making mortar. The 3 of them were having fun, not knowing that they were being watched by the Emperor and the other concubines. The cause of the incident was when the eunuch of the Eastern Palace secretly reported to Empress Xiao that Qinqiu was playing with mud. Empress Xiao almost fainted when she heard that her precious son was squatting on the ground and rubbing mud like a wild child in the countryside. She angrily went to find her son, but unexpectedly, the 3 of them were no longer in the Eastern Palace. After searching for a long time, she finally found him near the Qinjiang Hall. At that time, Qinqiu and his friends were carrying small buckets to paste the Emperor's wall. Empress Xiao looked at the messy coiling dragon stone wall of the Qinjiang Hall and almost collapsed on the spot. What are you doing? Little Jing Kong was using a small brush to paste the wall. He turned around and said to her, The wall is cracked. Paste it. Gu Jiao always repaired the roofs and walls for the neighbors, so little Jing Kong had long been itching to do it. But there was no wall to paste at home. There were many broken walls here, so he wanted to paste it. Empress Xiao, isn't that cracked? It's a pattern. It's a historical relic. It was passed down by the Emperor Taizu, and it was said that it blocked a landslide for him. So it was also called the Coiling Dragonstone. What was even more tragic was that they not only pasted the Coiling Dragonstone wall, but also the Emperor's Wind Lookout wall. Along the way, The three of them pasted the walls whenever they saw them. Empress Xiao didn't faint on the spot because of little Jing Kong's good looks. Empress Xiao didn't have time to teach her son and his little playmates a lesson. She hurriedly asked someone to dig out the mortar on the coiling dragonstone. The mortar was actually quite easy to dig out. It could be pried off with a dagger or a shovel. However, for some reason, the mortar this time couldn't be pried off no matter what. Empress Xiao realized that her son had made a big mistake, so she thought about finding someone to take the blame for him later. Unexpectedly, the emperor came. The three of them were caught red-handed. Empress Xiao was scared to death. Unexpectedly, the emperor didn't punish the three children. Of course, the emperor didn't want to punish the little miracle-working doctor's younger brother. Although he looked at the pasted coiling dragonstone, his Dragon Balls were also very painful. But soon, he found that there was something wrong with the mortar. Strictly speaking, it wasn't simple. How could there be such a strong mortar? Little Qi didn't have the brain, so the emperor skipped over Qin Chu and asked little Jing Kong and Su Yangyang, the youngest son of the Minister of War, "Where did you get the mortar?" Little Jing Kong tilted his head and said, "We made it ourselves." The emperor was quite surprised. "You know how to make this?" Little Jing Kong said seriously, "Jiao Jiao always makes it. I've learned it." The emperor looked at little Jing Kong and then looked at the pasted coiling dragonstone. Suddenly, he laughed like a fool. Empress Xiao seriously suspected that he had gone crazy. After that, it was now. The three little kids ran out of mortar, so they came here to make new ones. Qin Chu asked the imperial kitchen for the glutinous rice soup. They mixed it into the mortar, which was more or less the same as what Concubine Shu said. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642826/113526111. HTML Genius. Remember the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Go Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. The emperor continued. He can't have imagined it out of thin air. You have to do it before you believe it, right? Concubine Shu was completely speechless. The emperor called Eunuch Wei over. "Go and ask that child. When was the first time his family made this?" "Yes." Eunuch Wei walked away with small, quick steps. After a while, he turned back and said to the emperor, "Reporting to your majesty." He said that many of their neighbors' walls were made of this kind of mortar paste. They had it since last month. The emperor gave Eunuch Wei a meaningful glance. Eunuch Wei understood and turned around to call over a few palace experts, telling them to make a trip to Jadewater Alley. The imperial concubines had originally come to see the emperor, but now they were here to see Imperial Concubine Shu. Imperial Concubine Shu had been in the palace for many years, but she had never been so embarrassed. "Gu Jinyu, Gu Jinyu, you really tricked me." Not long after, the palace experts returned to the palace. One of them said to the emperor, "Reporting to your majesty, there is indeed the same kind of mortar." This time, the evidence was conclusive. The child's family made the mortar first. Then the question was, how did the fifth prince know about the mortar? Did he think of it himself, or did he steal it from someone else? Empress Xiao couldn't help but ask, "Concubine Shu, what exactly is going on?" Concubine Shu was extremely regretful. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have fallen for Gu Jinyu's trick and come to claim this credit. Now, how could she cover up her lie? It would have been fine if the fifth prince hadn't been involved, but he had. Noble consort Zhuang smiled faintly. "Why don't we call the fifth prince over and ask him?" No, she hadn't finished discussing with Xiao Wu yet. If she called Xiao Wu over at this juncture, wouldn't she be exposed on the spot? But what Concubine Shu was afraid of happened. Imperial father? Imperial mother? Why are you here? The fifth prince had returned to the palace and was rushing over with large strides. Imperial mother, I heard that you were looking for me for an urgent matter. He walked into the pavilion and saw Empress Xiao and the others seated. He cupped his hands and greeted them one by one. Imperial mother, you look terrible. The fifth prince looked at concubine Shu strangely. Everyone was sitting, but concubine Shu was standing in the middle of the pavilion, looking like she was being interrogated. The fifth prince frowned. What happened? Concubine Shu gave him a look. Empress Xiao pointed to a bucket of mortar and asked, Xiao Wu, do you recognize this? Concubine Shu desperately gave him a look. The fifth prince didn't see it. He looked at the mortar and asked with disgust, what is this dirty thing? How could everyone not understand what he meant when he said it was dirty? It turned out that he didn't even recognize mortar. Noble consort Zhuang covered her face and laughed. Xiao Wu, concubine Shu said that you made this thing? The fifth prince was disgusted. Why would I make such a dirty thing? Noble consort Zhuang burst into laughter. The rest of the concubines also covered their mouths with their handkerchiefs. Empress Xiao put on the airs of the mother of the country and didn't laugh at all. Concubine Shu even wanted to die. What happened to the connection between mother and son? Can't there be a bit of tacit understanding? You can leave first. The emperor said to the fifth prince. This matter had nothing to do with him, so the emperor wouldn't vent his anger on him for the time being. The fifth prince didn't understand, but the emperor had given the order, so he could only leave silently. The emperor's cold gaze fell on concubine Shu's face. What the hell is going on? Why don't you tell the truth? There were witnesses and material evidence. It was impossible for concubine Shu to exonerate herself. After entering the palace for so many years, this was the first time she had been slapped in the face in public, and one of them was her son. Concubine Shu felt aggrieved and said with red eyes, Your Majesty, I didn't do it on purpose. I did it for a reason. Concubine Shu told him about her meeting Gu Jinyu in prison. Of course, she didn't say that Gu Jinyu wanted to give her credit. Instead, she said, The princess knew that she had angered Your Majesty and was afraid that Your Majesty wouldn't believe her method. So she made me lie that it was little Five who thought of it. She said that she hoped to serve Your Majesty again. How would I know that she stole someone else's method? Gu Jinyu again. She plagiarized the little miracle doctor's things again. This was great. He was worried that he couldn't find evidence for the bellows, but Mortar delivered the evidence to his door. The emperor looked at concubine Shu. So, concubine Shu was also deceived. From the beginning to the end, she was the only one who committed the crime of deceiving the emperor? What could concubine Shu do? Admit that she almost deceived the emperor? In order to protect herself, concubine Shu had to admit that Gu Jinyu deceived the emperor. Concubine Shu bit her lip and knelt down in front of everyone. She cowed out and said, Your Majesty, my niece committed a grave mistake. Your Majesty, please punish her. The emperor said, Princess Hui stole someone else's work and falsely claimed credit for it. She deceived the emperor and committed treason. On account of concubine Shu's pleading for her, I will strip her of her position as princess and revoke her title. Concubine Shu was stunned. This was on account of her? She couldn't even be a princess anymore. The crime of deceiving the emperor was actually very difficult to convict strictly. For example, Qin Shi would always lie that he didn't secretly eat candy. The third prince would lie that he had done his homework. These were all deceiving the emperor, but usually they wouldn't be convicted. They would only be punished if there were serious consequences. The mortar incident clearly didn't cause serious consequences. The emperor had still stripped her of her title and position as princess because he wanted to use this as an excuse to make a fuss. Everyone couldn't help but think of the explosion at the Ministry of Works and the rumor that the bellows had not been invented by Gu Jinyu. If it was because of the bellows, then it made sense. Concubine Shu, oh concubine Shu, so your niece wasn't as good as you said. She didn't know anything and stole someone else's work. She even modified it on her own and caused a disaster. If you didn't punish your niece, who would you punish? The concubines all looked at Concubine Shu with a different expression. This woman, who was so proud of her success, finally fell. Concubine Shu was fined a year's salary by the emperor and grounded for a month. Concubine Shu's face turned green. What was a slap in the face? This was it. The entire harem saw her as a joke. From now on, this black history of hers could not be erased. The emperor frowned and glanced at her. What? You're still not leaving? Are you not satisfied with my punishment? Your Majesty doesn't dare. Your Majesty will leave. Concubine Shu stood up awkwardly and bowed to the emperor. She staggered away with the help of the palace maids. She had only taken a few steps when the emperor suddenly called out to her. Concubine Shu. Concubine Shu was overjoyed. She turned her head back with tears in her eyes, hoping that the emperor would comfort her. After all, she had also been implicated. Unexpectedly, the emperor only said coldly, "Have Xiao Wu come to the imperial study. I want to test him on his homework." Concubine Shu immediately froze. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964/11352394. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Go Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 215. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. What she feared had come true. It was not enough to describe Consort Shu's current mood. She did not expect the emperor to test the fifth prince's homework at this time. The emperor was very busy every day and did not have much time to test the prince's homework. The eldest prince and the crown prince were the most concerned about it. One was his eldest son, the other was his legitimate son. For someone like the fifth prince, who was not the legitimate heir or not, the emperor would at most check his essays. Every time, with Gu Jinyu's help, the fifth prince's essays would be done very well. The emperor would occasionally call the fifth prince over and ask him questions about his essays. Gu Jinyu had taught the fifth prince these in advance. Although the fifth prince was not good in class, he was very talented in cheating. Gu Jinyu only needed to say that the emperor might test him on this later. If he answered this way, he would remember it. So, the fifth prince had never been exposed after asking Gu Jinyu to cheat for so many years. Consort Shu's heart was trembling. "Your Majesty," she tried to stop all this, but the emperor was determined. On the other side, the three little kids had finished making the mortar and were carrying the small buckets to paste the wall. The emperor had no more fun watching them. He got up and returned to the imperial study. Empress Xiao, noble consort Zhuang, and the others got up to send him off. The emperor went to the imperial study. The fifth prince was also called over. He did not understand what had happened for the time being. He only felt that the palace servants' expressions were strange, and the emperor's expression was even stranger. "Father." He entered the imperial study and bowed. At this time, the three little kids had already carried the small buckets and were huffing and puffing outside the imperial study to paste the wall. Eunuch Wei was really worried that the little kids would paste the emperor into the wall. He hurriedly asked someone to bring the bricks over. Not the wall, but the bricks were not bad. The few of them squatted down and used small brushes to slowly paste the bricks. Little Jing Kong was the most serious, but because he was too young, he did not control his strength well enough. So he was the worst at it. The second best was Su Kanji. He was not very good at it. Qin Chuyu was the only one who was truly good at hiding behind walls. At first, Qin Chiyu played along with his two friends, but after a while, he realized that he was the best at pasting and gradually found joy in pasting walls. "I can be a painter in the future," Qin Chiyu said proudly. Little Jing Kong agreed wholeheartedly. "That's right, you're the best." Su Kanji also nodded in agreement. Eunuch Wei's body trembled, and the horsetail whisk in his hand fell out of fright. "Little ancestor, you're a prince. Is your dream to be a painter? Can't you be a little more mature?" In the royal study, the fifth prince's shock was no less than Eunuch Wei's. However, his shock did not come from his brother, who was going to be a tile painter, but from the emperor's sole interrogation. The emperor recited a passage from Mencius. "It is not that the city walls are not high, the pond is not deep, the military revolution is not firm, the rice grains are not plentiful, the land is not as good as the people. What's behind it?" The fifth prince said, It's Little Jing Kong shook his head and pasted bricks. As the saying goes, the people of the country don't use the boundary of the border. The country doesn't use the dangers of the mountains and rivers. The world doesn't use the advantages of the military revolution. A just cause enjoys much support, while an unjust cause enjoys little support. With little support, one's relatives will support him. With much support, the world will follow. With the world's support, one's relatives will support him. Therefore, if a gentleman does not fight, he will definitely win. The 4-year-old's voice was crisp and a little childish. The entire royal study fell silent. The emperor glared at the fifth prince and said, "It's easy for a man to speak." The fifth prince couldn't answer. Little Jing Kong said, "You can't blame me." The emperor said, "I'm only concerned about the country." Little Jing Kong said, "You can't listen to me wholeheartedly." He wasn't competing with the fifth prince for an answer. He just heard it and said it out loud. Just like when he listened to music, he would hum the next line when he heard the first line. That was all. The emperor was furious. He pointed outside the window and said, "Listen, listen, listen. You're worse than a 4-year-old. Qin Chiyu asked Little Jing Kong strangely, "What were you reciting just now?" Little Jing Kong spread his hands. "I don't know. I heard it from the big brothers in the Imperial College." The 4 books and 5 classics were compulsory for the imperial examinations. Students in the Imperial College often recited them. So Little Jing Kong memorized it after hearing it a lot. Qin Chiyu said, "Why can't I remember it?" The emperor gave the fifth prince a few more arithmetic problems, but the fifth prince didn't know any of them. The emperor was furious. "Aren't these the problems you did before? You just changed the numbers." The fifth prince trembled in fear and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. It was basically confirmed that the fifth prince had faked his knowledge. If it wasn't for imperial concubine Shu making such a fuss, the emperor would not have suspected the fifth prince. If he dared to take credit for the fifth prince, then was his previous knowledge also adulterated? "Who did your homework in the past?" the emperor asked in a low voice. At first, the fifth prince wanted to clench his teeth, but he couldn't withstand his father's pressure. He stammered, "Cousin." The emperor was furious. It was Gu Jinyu again. The emperor was so angry that he laughed. He had been wondering where Gu Jinyu had learned her ability to claim credit for herself at the drop of a hat. Now, it seemed that she had been influenced by others since she was young. Her talents had been taken away by others, so she had taken other people's things. What was this called? A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. The emperor suddenly felt terrible about the good things that concubine Shu had. But his son was his biological son, so he couldn't really leave him alone. After the third prince was conferred the title of Rui Wang, the eldest prince was also conferred the title of Prince Ning. The fourth prince and the fifth prince weren't young anymore. There were officials in the court who wrote that it was time for them to be conferred the title of prince. Just this morning, he had already drafted the titles for his 2 sons. But now, the emperor felt that it wasn't enough. Actually, the fourth prince's knowledge wasn't fake. The emperor was just hurt by the fifth prince, so he suddenly became suspicious of the fourth prince. Should he test the fourth prince's knowledge? Or even if he passed the test, should he test his character? The emperor thought about it 1,000 times, but in the end, he only said one thing. The matter of conferring the title of prince could be discussed later. Hence, the fourth prince, who didn't do anything, was implicated and had no chance of being conferred the title of prince. The fourth prince was really annoyed. Who did he offend? Where could he go to reason with him? Little Jing Kong spent a beautiful afternoon in the palace. In order not to expose his identity, Qin Chuyu didn't say that he was staying in the palace. He only said that he would go back with his father later. A child wouldn't be so suspicious. Then see you tomorrow. Little Jing Kong said goodbye to Qin Chuyu, got into the Su family's carriage with Su Tang Tang, and left the palace. When the Su family's carriage sent little Jing Kong back to the medical center, it was already a little late. There weren't many patients in the medical center today, so Gu Jiao waited for little Jing Kong in the lobby. Little Jing Kong was actually very tired. Su Tang Tang had already fallen asleep on the bed. Little Jing Kong's eyelids were fighting, but he forced himself not to fall asleep. The carriage arrived at the medical center. Gu Jiao would take a look at every carriage that stopped in front of the medical center. This time was no exception. She saw that it was the Su family's carriage, so she got up and walked out. Little Jing Kong didn't jump down, so she could guess what was going on. She got into the carriage and held little Jing Kong in her arms. Little Jing Kong was pecking at the rice like a Jiao Jiao. As he pecked, he felt that his body was light. He looked at Gu Jiao in a daze and called out softly, "Jiao Jiao." "Yes, it's me." Gu Jiao hugged him with one hand and held the back of his head with the other. Then, she carried him out of the carriage. "Be careful." The coachman brought over a footstool. "Thank you." Gu Jiao thanked him and carried little Jing Kong back to the medical center. Little Jing Kong lay in Gu Jiao's arms. His little head rested on her shoulder, and he fell asleep. Gu Jiao freed one hand to take the small basket. A slender, jade-like hand reached out. "Let me do it." He put Gu Jiao's small medicine box into the basket, then carried the small basket on his back. He reached out to carry little Jing Kong again. Little Jing Kong, however, seemed to have sensed something. He frowned and grabbed Gu Jiao's clothes tightly, refusing to let go. "It's okay. I'll carry him," Gu Jiao said to Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang said, "Okay." Gu Jiao asked strangely, "It's so late. Why are you here?" "The medical center isn't busy today." "I'm just passing by," Xiao Lulang said seriously. Gu Jiao said, "Oh, is there anything else?" Xiao Lulang asked. "No. Let's go home," Gu Jiao said briskly. "Okay," Xiao Lulang responded, but soon felt that something was wrong. Home? Since when did he recognize that place as his home? Gu Jiao stepped out of the door and found that Xiao Lulang didn't follow her. She looked back at him and asked, "Aren't you going home?" Xiao Lulang opened his mouth and said, "I'm going home." Xiao Lulang walked out with his crutch. Gu Jiao waited for him to come over, then walked side by side with him to Clearwater Alley. The street was noisy, and people were coming and going. Xiao Lulang walked to the outside and blocked the pedestrians who might bump into him. As he walked, he silently looked at her beside him. When he first met her, she was just a silly girl. Now, she was slim and elegant. Her face was still the same, but it was as if she had changed into another person. He had said that he would leave. However, she didn't know when it started. Perhaps it started from the moment she insisted that he go to Tianxiang Academy. Or perhaps it was from the moment she wanted to send him to the county examinations regardless of everything. Step by step, she had walked to this day. He couldn't do such a childish thing like asking for a gift again. He couldn't have a heart. He couldn't have a home. He couldn't have any more worries. Creak. Gu Jiao pushed open the door to the courtyard. Xiao Lulang said almost reflexively, "You're in the wrong place. This isn't our home." After saying this, he was stunned. Gu Jiao turned her head and smiled. "I know. I'm giving Master Zhao some cough medicine." Her smile was as clean as the snow at the peak of the heavenly mountain. Xiao Lulang was dazzled. The next day, the news of the emperor stripping Gu Jinyu of her title and position as princess spread through the streets and alleys. everyone in the tea houses was discussing why Gu Jinyu had been severely punished by the emperor. I heard that she broke the imperial jade seal. His Majesty punished her in a fit of anger. That's not what I heard. Then what is it? Do you know about the furnace accident at the Ministry of Works? That furnace was modified by her. It could only use 2 bellows, but she insisted on using 6. In the end, the furnace exploded. She modified it just because she said so. Didn't the officials at the Ministry of Works review it? So that's where the problem lies. She only provided the plan. It's up to the Ministry of Works whether to use it or not. The Ministry of Works Inspection Department is the main culprit. There's another reason why she was punished. All right. Don't keep us in suspense. Tell us. She didn't invent the bellows. It was another girl. The old blacksmith rushed over from the county and exposed her on the spot. Ah, there was such a thing? Otherwise, why would His Majesty punish her so severely? Isn't it because she committed the crime of deceiving the emperor? The noble daughter of a marquis, actually falsely claiming someone else's credit. She's too shameless. Isn't that right? Shameless. This was a small tea house outside the capital. Even outside the city, the news had spread like wildfire. A well-built old man who couldn't hide his dignity even though he was wearing plain clothes frowned slightly. Little brother, which marquis's daughter is this noble daughter of a marquis? His voice was too dignified. The people who were in the middle of a heated discussion couldn't help but fall silent. They all looked towards him. His hair was already silver, but his figure was tall and sturdy. His appearance was dignified and his aura was strong. Not a single person present dared to underestimate him. It was a newborn calf that didn't fear the tiger that courageously said, "Marquis Ding An's manner." The dignified old man sternly said, "Are you certain that you didn't make a mistake?" The young boy trembled in fear from his aura. No mistake. It's Ding and Marquis's manner. It spread throughout the capital. If you don't believe me, go ask. Marquis Ding An's daughter invented the bellows and was conferred the title of Junju. She hadn't been free for a few days when the bellows had an accident. Many people were injured. The dignified old man's gaze turned cold. Digression. Can you guess who this old man is? The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642826/113495786. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 216. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. The business of the medical center was only deserted for a day, but the next day, there were more people. Fortunately, the patients who were treated here earlier were discharged from the hospital one after another. Jiang Shi was still being treated. He was the most serious patient in the accident. Just a few days ago, he successfully passed the critical period. His current condition was good, and new improvements could be seen every day. His voice was also gradually recovering, and he could occasionally speak a few words in a hoarse voice. Gu Jiao already learned that his name was Jiang Shi, from Yushin County. He was 21 years old this year, and his younger sister, Jiangli, was 8 years old this year. There was a famine in their village. Their parents and family members starved to death, leaving only him and his sister. The two of them were bought by a merchant and sold many times. In fact, it was better for both of them to be separated, but Jiang Shi didn't want to be separated from his sister. It was also a coincidence that the two of them were sold to the capital. He worked as an illegal worker for the Ministry of Works. The salary for working as an illegal worker was not much, but it was barely enough to give his sister a bite to eat. From Jiang Shi's mouth, Gu Jiao also learned that there were many illegal workers like him. It was lucky to be able to work as an illegal worker for the imperial court. Some people were not bought by the corrupt officials of the imperial court, but were sold to some black-hearted small workshops, which was really miserable. This kind of illegal worker didn't have a household registration or travel permit in the capital. Although the imperial court paid for their treatment and gave them a little salary, they all had to leave the capital after they recovered. Gu Jiao gave Jiang Shi today's infusion. Jiang Li was not in the ward, so she went to the lobby to help. The little girl was already familiar with the people in the medical center. She understood that the people here would not hurt her, so she gradually let down her guard. When there were many people, she would help. Today, she was helping to pack the medicine. Her hands and feet were not very nimble, but she did it very carefully. While Gu Jiao was observing little Jiang Li, Dr. Song suddenly came over and said with a smile, "The little girl works very hard. She can recognize a lot of medicinal materials. She is much better than me." While they were talking, a carriage came outside the door. The 4 accompanying bodyguards were all riding tall horses. With one look, one could tell that the identity of the person in the carriage was not ordinary. As expected, the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and a noble and beautiful young madam walked out. Who else could it be but Consort Rui Wang? Ever since Consort Rui Wang met Gu Jiao on the stone arch bridge on the first day of the new year, she never appeared again. She got off the carriage with the help of 2 female officials. She waved her hand impatiently. "All right, don't help me. It's not like I don't have hands and feet." "But you must be careful," said Maid Su. Consort Rui Wang ignored her and walked into the hall. She saw Gu Jiao and smiled happily. "Miss Gu." Gu Jiao nodded slightly. Consort Rui Wang looked around and walked forward to hold Gu Jiao's hand. "Is it convenient for us to sit in your courtyard?" "Okay," Gu Jiao said to Dr. Song. "I'll leave this place to you." "Okay." Dr. Song responded and cupped his hands to Consort Rui Wang. The patients here did not know the identity of the other party, but he knew. Consort Rui Wang did not pay much attention to him and went to the courtyard with Gu Jiao. The two of them sat down. Gu Jiao poured her a cup of tea. Consort Rui Wang did not drink, but said, "I'm sorry that I haven't come to see you for so long. I only found out that I was pregnant when I came back from the palace that day. The mamas did not let me go out and kept me locked up for 2 months." The mamas also followed Consort Yu's instructions. The fetus had to wait for 3 months before it could be announced to the public and be allowed to go out. "Congratulations," Gu Jiao said. Consort Rui Wang's face flashed with a touch of shyness. "His Highness and I have been married for a few years. This is my first child. Can you help me take a look at the pulse?" Gu Jiao took her pulse. The pulse is very stable. Consort Rui Wang revealed a rare innocent smile. The imperial physician also said so, but I was not at ease with what the imperial physician said. "I am only at ease with what you said." She thought of something and said, "By the way, I haven't had the chance to thank you for what happened last time. If you didn't let me prepare in advance, I wouldn't have been able to save those people who fell into the lake." Gu Jiao said, "I just told you. They were saved because you believed me. The credit is yours, so there's no need to thank me." Consort Rui Wang opened her mouth. How was she supposed to respond to this? Gu Jiao asked calmly. "You came here today just to take the pulse and thank me?" Consort Rui Wang smiled embarrassedly. "Actually, there's something else. I want to ask you to make a house call. I know I'm being too abrupt and should have told you earlier. However, I only came to the palace today to pay my respects to His Majesty and the Empress. I just happened to hear the news. I don't feel at ease with other people seeing you." Gu Jiao was like this. She was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. If Consort Rui Wang used her power to pressure her, she would have refused. However, Consort Rui Wang looked at her with a pair of doe-like eyes. She sighed and agreed. "You're the best." Consort Rui Wang brought Gu Jiao to her carriage. Gu Jiao's patient was an imperial concubine. This imperial concubine did not live in the palace. Instead, she lived in a nunnery near Puji Temple. She also had to cross the river. The cable bridge had been repaired. The only way for the carriage to pass was through the stone arch bridge. The carriage stopped outside the nunnery. The two got off the carriage. Consort Rui Wang had the maid wait outside while she brought Gu Jiao into the nunnery. This nunnery was not big and there were not many nuns. They only saw 2 nuns in total. "Is the imperial concubine here?" Consort Rui Wang asked. "Yes. Princess, this way please." A young nun brought Consort Rui Wang and Gu Jiao to a meditation room in the backyard. There was a suppressed cough coming from the meditation room. Consort Rui Wang's heart tightened. She lifted her skirt and walked over. "Imperial concubine, are you all right?" In front of the bed, an old mama bowed to Consort Rui Wang. "Princess." Consort Rui Wang sat down by the bed and held the coughing person's skinny hand. "How did you get so sick?" Cough, cough. "What are you doing here?" "I'm fine." "It's an old illness." Cough, cough. She coughed violently. Gu Jiao walked in with a small basket on her back. Her gaze fell on the other party. It was an old woman who was cultivating with hair. She was about the same age as her grandaunt. Her elegant face showed her beauty when she was young. "This is..." The other party looked at Gu Jiao. "Imperial concubine, this is my friend. Her surname is Gu, and she's very skilled in medicine. She's here to treat you," Consort Rui Wang said and looked at Gu Jiao. "Miss Gu, this is Consort Jing." Gu Jiao nodded. She did not have the habit of bowing to others. Consort Jing was a nun, so she did not care about this. She covered her face and coughed twice. Then she said to Gu Jiao, "Since you're Qian Qian's friend, you don't have to be so formal. I'm not an imperial concubine anymore. You can just call me Abbess Jing, un." Gu Jiao took the old concubine's pulse and checked her body. "Abbess, did you have asthma before?" Grand concubine Jing was quite surprised that such a young girl could diagnose her asthma so quickly. But at her age, she wouldn't be surprised by such a thing. She said, "I had it before. It's an old illness, and it's the worst in spring." "Can it be cured?" Consort Rui Wang looked at Gu Jiao. "It's hard to cure, but it can be controlled." Gu Jiao opened the medicine box and took out some asthma medicine and spray for the old concubine. She told her how to use them and some taboos in daily life. The old concubine thanked Gu Jiao. Consort Rui Wang and the old concubine talked for a while, and only left reluctantly when the old concubine felt sleepy. After getting into the carriage, Consort Rui Wang sighed. The old concubine is too pitiful. What's more, the old concubine was admired by the emperor. The emperor's birth mother came from a humble background. She was only a palace maid and had no right to raise a prince. The emperor was adopted by the old concubine as soon as he was born. At that time, the old concubine was only concubine Jing. She was promoted to consort Jing after giving birth to a little princess a few years later. Consort Jing was a gentle and magnanimous woman. She never fought for favor in the imperial harem, nor did she stir up trouble. Perhaps it was because of her temperament that Empress Dowager Zhuang liked her. She gave up so many princes and made her adopted son the emperor instead. However, she did make a sacrifice. Since the emperor was adopted by her, he was her son. When the emperor ascended the throne, she should be made Empress Dowager as well. But how could Empress Dowager Zhuang allow a second Empress Dowager to appear in the palace? That was why Consort Jing missed the late emperor and was willing to cultivate with her hair on, chanting scriptures for the late emperor every day. However, there's another saying among the people. Consort Rui Wang didn't treat Gu Jiao as an outsider. She didn't have any sisters of her own, and Gu Jiao was the first. She said, "The old concubine has a sweetheart." She didn't want to be Empress Dowager and asked to be a nun. She hadn't even said this to her sister, Du Xiaoyun. Of course, the main reason was that Du Xiaoyun was a blabbermouth. Moreover, she was a blabbermouth that was biased toward the crown princess. Digression, her sweetheart couldn't be, I won't say. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896/113492965. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 217. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are available here. Before consort Rui Wang got married, she also had many friends. However, after she got married, they became estranged. After she became the princess, those people no longer treated her as an ordinary friend. Miss Gu was so nice. They didn't treat her with fear and alienation just because she was the princess. In fact, she didn't understand how Gu Jiao did it. It seemed that she was always calm and nothing could make her have a big reaction. It was comfortable to get along with such a person. Consort Rui Wang sent the patient back to the medical center and paid the consultation fee before leaving. In the afternoon, the medical center received another visit. It was a patient who had been treated here before. He had been stitched up and it was time to remove the stitches. Dr. Song and the others were busy. Gu Jiao asked for the address and got on the medical center's carriage to go there. The patient's waist and abdomen were cut by the fragments of the furnace. He had more than 20 stitches. The initial recovery was good. However, he accidentally fell down when he got out of bed to go to the toilet and tore another part of the wound. This time, the recovery was good. Gu Jiao removed the stitches for him. "Do I need to take any medicine or apply any medicine?" the patient asked. Gu Jiao shook her head. "No, it's fine. The diet is light." The patient thanked her excitedly. "Thank you, Miss Gu." This patient was a regular craftsman invited by the Ministry of Works. He was a local in the capital. After he recovered, he could return to the Ministry of Works. Gu Jiao thought of Jiang Shi and little Jiang Li, who were homeless in the medical center. However, she didn't think for too long. Gu Jiao got on the carriage. Xiao Sanzi drove the carriage and suddenly said, "Miss Gu, it's so lively over there." Gu Jiao was a very cold person, but she also liked to be lively. This was a very contradictory trait. She lifted the curtain and took a look. She seemed to understand why it was so lively. "It's the Qingfeng gang." Is that the Cool Breeze gang?" Although Xiao Sanzi had heard of it many times, he had never been inside, so he was a little expectant. The Cool Breeze restaurant was one of the most elegant restaurants in the capital. It had all kinds of food, drink, and entertainment. It also often opened some very novel gambling games. "Let's go take a look," Gu Jiao said. Xiao Sanzi was overjoyed. "Okay." The two went to the Cool Breeze Inn. The reason why it was so lively today was because of Xiao Lulang. It turned out that the Cool Breeze gang had set up a new gambling house. This time, they didn't bet on who was first or second, but on who was the great three masters. This was very exciting. After sharing the first place with Commandery Prince Sun, who still had a third candidate in mind. However, there couldn't possibly be two of the great three masters. The Cool Breeze gang had said that if there were two of them, they would pay double. Of course, it was impossible for there to be two of them. This was not a baseless guess. Someone had gone to the palace to ask around. The emperor would not allow there to be two of them. So the question was, who should they bet on? Of course, it's Commandery Prince N. Do you still need to ask? A scholar in his 30s said, Commandery Prince N has been first in every imperial examination. If he can get first place in the palace examination, he will be the great three masters. Xiao Lulang came from a small county. The difficulty of the imperial examination is not comparable to the imperial examination in the capital. Moreover, his performance is not stable. I heard that he didn't do well in the college examination. He didn't even get the lesser three masters. Do you still dare to bet on him? Everyone felt that it made sense. Although he was considered to be the best in the county, what was he in the capital? Don't look at how he shared the first place with Commandery Prince N. It was just a fluke. The cabinet ministers must have sympathized with him because he came from a poor background and was able to write good essays. Otherwise, what would happen? Would he be able to compete with Commandery Prince N? Crazy. In the end, most of the people bet on Commandery Prince N. Only a few adventurers gritted their teeth and bet on Xiao Lulang. In order to attract more desperate gamblers, Qing Feng Gang did not hesitate to hang the Greater Three Masters list in the most prominent position in the main hall. Commandery Prince N's name was first on the right side. Xiao Lulang was second. But the two people's bets were as different as heaven and earth. Commandery Prince N's name was filled with gold ingots. Xiao Yolang's name only had a single silver ingot. A gold ingot represented 1,000 taels. A silver ingot represented 100 taels. Gu Jiao sold the emperor a second-hand brush for 8,000 taels. She used 3,000 taels to go to the Zhouzhuan Medical Center and the new pharmaceutical factory. She still had 5,000 taels left. She did not have the banknotes with her, but she had the bank's cards. She walked into the main hall. I want to bet. On the other side, Commandery Prince N was also betting in the side room of Qing Feng Gang. He did not reveal his identity, but he had a noble aura, so the shopkeeper did not dare to neglect him. The shopkeeper politely asked, Young master, are you betting on the Greater Three Masters list? You can bet on Commandery Prince N. He will definitely win. Commandery Prince N was not interested in betting on himself. He tapped the table lightly with his finger. I heard that you have the flower hairpin roll here. Yes, we do. The shopkeeper was surprised. He did not expect him to ask about the flower hairpin roll. Recently, because of Gu Jinyu, the flower hairpin roll was also affected. Some people suspected that Qing Feng Gang did not check the background of the people on the roll and caused them to lose money blindly. Actually, the results were not out yet. But everyone thought that Gu Jinyu had no chance. Those who bet on her regretted it so much that their intestines turned green. Now, Zhuang Yueshi was far ahead of the other competitors on the flower hairpin roll. The shopkeeper thought that he had also bet on Zhuang Yueshi. Commandery Prince N took out a thick stack of banknotes and placed it on the table. He said lightly, All on eldest Miss Gu. The shopkeeper was dumbfounded. Commandery Prince N placed his bet on Gu Jiao. When he went downstairs, he saw Gu Jiao holding her cards and placing her bet on the big 3 yuan. 5,000 taels, Xiao Lulang. Commandery Prince N, who was shot in the heart. After placing her bet on her husband, Gu Jiao saw a string of shiny gold ingots under her husband's name. She left with satisfaction. Just as she was about to step into the carriage, she heard a gentle voice behind her. What a coincidence, Miss Gu. Gu Jiao turned around. Seeing that it was Commandery Prince N, she asked calmly, What's the matter? Commandery Prince N thought of her bet just now and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Miss Gu, do you have so little confidence in me? Gu Jiao was confused. What did you say? Place your bet. Commandery Prince N pointed at the big 3 yuan list in the hall. Oh. Gu Jiao thought for a while and said, If you have confidence in yourself, you can place your bet. I have already placed all my money. Commandery Prince N. That's not what I meant. Forget it, I don't know what I mean either. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Goodbye. Gu Jiao turned around and was about to get into the carriage. Wait. Commandery Prince N stopped her. Gu Jiao turned around and stared at him. Commandery Prince N, Can I look for you if there's nothing else? Gu Jiao, no. Commandery Prince, and took a deep breath, to treat my illness. Wu Yang, who was not far away, gasped. My lord, didn't you say that you don't trust her? You slapped yourself in the face so quickly? Gu Jiao said calmly, come to the medical center. Commandery Prince and smiled gently. Okay. The two of them sat in their own carriages and returned to the medical center. When Gu Jiao brought Commandery Prince and into the medical center, the second boss and shopkeeper Wang, who were checking the accounts at the counter, were stunned. What was going on? Who was this wild man? Did Jiaojia cheat on their family? Other than Gu Changqing, Gu Jiao had never appeared with another man other than Xiao Lulang. However, Gu Changqing was her biological brother, and this man was not. Gu Jiao walked in front. She might not have noticed it herself, but the way he looked at her was different from how he looked at others. It was a look that only men understood. As if he noticed the two of them sizing him up, Commandery Prince said politely, without losing his status, I'm here to see a doctor. The second boss was stunned. See a doctor. Are you looking for Xiaogu? Xiaogu? Commandery Prince's lips curled up, and he could not hide the smile in his eyes. Yes, I'm looking for Xiaogu. The second boss realized that he had said something wrong. He and Xiaogu were close friends, so he could call her Xiaogu. Why did you, a patient who came from nowhere, also call her Xiaogu? The second boss was not convinced. Commandery Prince put a silver ingot on the counter, the consultation fee. The second boss, please come in. Shopkeeper Wang, I despise you. Commandery Prince followed Gu Jiao into the consultation room. Gu Jiao noticed his night blindness the first time she saw him. However, she still asked him formally, have a seat. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Commandery Princess sat down, my eyes. Gu Jiao looked at him and signaled him to continue. Commandery Prince hesitated and finally told the truth. I can't see at night. Gu Jiao asked again, other than not being able to see. Do you feel any other discomfort? No. Commandery Prince shook his head. How long have you been in this condition? Gu Jiao asked. Commandery Prince thought for a while. It slowly appeared the second year after I went to Qin State. The doctor saw me and said that I should have been poisoned. However, he never found out what kind of poison it was. This has nothing to do with poisoning. Gu Jiao asked about his vision again. Commandery Prince said, it's too far. I can't see clearly. Gu Jiao pointed at the words on the wall. What about this? Commandery Prince shook his head. He was also nearsighted. Gu Jiao made a judgment in her heart. Gu Jiao opened the small medicine box and took out a small flashlight that was smaller than her palm. She needed a slit lamp to check the fundus of his eyes. Unfortunately, the small medicine box couldn't take out such a large device for the time being. She could only use her eyes to check. Gu Jiao was a doctor. When she treated people, she didn't care about gender. She stood up and stood in front of Commandery Prince. She bent down slightly. It might be a little bright later. Don't move. Okay. Commandery Prince agreed. He was much more obedient than Lu Yisheng. He did whatever the doctor asked him to do. If the doctor didn't ask him to move, he would definitely not move. Gu Jiao liked patients who cooperated. Gu Jiao opened his eyelids with one hand and used a small flashlight to check his eyes. Commandery Prince didn't know what she was holding in her hand. He only felt that it was very bright and he couldn't see anything. The tip of his nose was filled with her fragrance. Okay. Gu Jiao finished checking his eyes and took back the flashlight. She sat back on her chair and asked him about his eating habits before and after he went to Qin State. She found that he was very careful in Qin State and didn't dare to eat many things. This caused problems with his intake of nutrients. This kind of night blindness was easy to cure. It was also possible to recover his eyesight. Gu Jiao took out a bottle of fish liver oil from the small medicine box. She used a small porcelain bottle to fill it and handed it to him. Once a day, 1 pill each time. Is it really not poisoning? Commandery Prince untook the small porcelain bottle and asked in disbelief. It was not strange that he was so careful. When he was 8 years old, he was sent to Chin State as a hostage. Many people wanted him to die. It was not the first time he was poisoned. It's not poisoning, Gu Jiao confirmed. Commander Prince and suddenly realized that it was not poisoning. He was wondering why they couldn't find the murderer. They even killed 2 hostages by mistake. Today, the Imperial College was dismissed early. Little Jing Kong was taken away by Lu Quan again. At night, the old chancellor was going to teach little Jing Kong a foreign language. Xiao Lulang went to the clinic. When he went in, he faintly felt that there was something wrong with the way everyone looked at him, especially the second boss and shopkeeper Wang. Their eyes were full of sympathy and awkwardness. They didn't dare to look at him. Xiao Lulang was used to all kinds of gazes after his leg injury. He didn't mind it and walked towards Gu Jiao's courtyard. The second boss whispered, "Do you think we should tell her that little Gu is in the clinic?" Shopkeeper Wang, "That's not the main point, right?" The main point was that they had been in there for a long time and hadn't come out yet. Was Miss Gu taking so long to see a doctor? Of course, it wasn't to the extent of saying that they were doing something shameful. Gu Jiao had her own courtyard. If they really wanted to do something, they should go to the small courtyard. However, it was rare to see her treating a patient for so long. Not to mention that the man didn't look sick at all. Moreover, he was too good-looking. The second boss thought, "I know little Gu the best." She must have been tempted by him again, just like how she treated Xiao Lulang in the past. When Xiao Lulang was unconscious, little Gu had been drooling over him in the side room for a long time. Humph, don't think he didn't know. To get to the small courtyard, he had to pass by the clinic. Just as Xiao Lulang reached the door of the consultation room, he saw the door open from the inside. It was Royal Prince, and Xiao Lulang stopped in his tracks. Coincidentally, at this moment, the medicine box fell from a table. Gu Jiao reached out to grab the medicine box, but her waist almost hit the table. Royal Prince strode forward and reached out to block her soft waist and the sharp corner of the table. He didn't actually touch her. Gu Jiao dodged. She wasn't that careless. However, from Xiao Liulang's point of view, it looked like his hand had supported her waist. Xiao Liulang's eyes darkened. Digression. Come, let's drink this cup of aged 82 vinegar. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/113464705. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Go mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 218. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels can be read for free. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Oh, you're here. When Gu Jiao stood up, she saw Xiao Lulang. She walked towards him with the medicine box and didn't spare any extra attention to Royal Prince and laughed at himself as he looked at the extra hand he had stretched out. He knew she would be able to avoid it. But still, school ended early today, so I came to take a look. Xiao Lulang paused and said, Lu Quan took Jing Kong back. This was a tacit understanding between people who lived together day and night. She didn't need to ask, but he already knew what she would ask. Gu Jiao smiled. I don't have anything to do here. I can go back after packing up. Xiao Lulang, how is Jiangshi? Gu Jiao, he's recovering well. Xiao Lulang, I saw little Jiangli just now. She's helping to get medicine. She's quite smart. A certain someone talked too much today. Gu Jiao didn't think too much about it and went back to the courtyard to pack up. Royal Prince looked at Xiao Lulang with a smile. His eyes were full of affirmation and support. You did well in the general examination. The court examination is as difficult as the general examination. Do well. I'll think of a way to send your exam paper to His Majesty. All tribute scholars were qualified to participate in the court examination. There were a total of 210 people, but less than 30 exam papers were presented to the emperor. It seemed that the power of the court examination was in the emperor's hands, but in reality, the first step was still controlled by the cabinet. For the examinees, it wasn't enough to just be capable. They had to have a strong background. Otherwise, the exam paper wouldn't reach the emperor's hands. The Grand Secretary of the cabinet was surnamed Yuan, but he was old. Most of the power in the cabinet was now in the hands of Grand Tutor Zhuang. The reason why Commandery Prince extended an olive branch to Xiao Lulang was because he had his eyes on Xiao Lulang from the beginning. Secondly, he was confident that even if he sent Xiao Liulang's exam paper to the emperor, he would still be the top scorer. As for whether there was a third reason, such as showing off his status and superiority in front of Gu Jiao, no one knew. Gu Jiao walked over with a small basket on her back. What are you talking about? Nothing. Xiao Lulang glanced at Royal Prince expressionlessly, not showing any gratitude. He turned to Gu Jiao and said, "Let's go." "Okay." Gu Jiao nodded and left the clinic with him. In the evening, Feng Lin came over. He came alone, without Lin Qingye. Ever since he and Lin Qingye started living together. No living together. Feng Lin rarely went out alone. Today, it was because Steward Zhou had arranged a blind date for Lin Qingye. Feng Lin came to talk to Xiao Lulang about his parents' case in Song County. There had been progress in the case. After Elder Feng's student received Xiao Liulang's letter, he immediately asked for the case of Feng Lin's parents and personally interrogated Feng Lin's relatives. When had the relatives in the countryside ever seen such a powerful official? In their hearts, the county magistrate was the sky. However, even the county magistrate could only stand on the side and pour tea for the other party. Without much effort, Feng Lin's relatives confessed. This matter had nothing to do with Feng Lin's parents. The two elders' innocence was cleared, and Feng Lin's innocence was cleared. "Lulang, did you hear me?" In the study, Feng Lin waved his hand in front of Xiao Liulang's face. "Yes, I heard you," Xiao Lulang said absent-mindedly. "Why do I feel like you're not in the right state?" Feng Lin still had to rush back to study and prepare for the court examination next month, so he didn't stay for too long. When he left the courtyard, he met the old chancellor coming from next door. He thought for a moment and told Liulang's son-in-law that something was wrong with Lulang. "I don't know what's wrong with him. I've been reunited with him for so long, but I've never seen him like this." The old chancellor went to Xiao Liulang's study. "You're here," Xiao Lulang greeted, but he was not in a good mood. The old chancellor sat down across from him at the desk, then looked at him deeply and asked, "Is there something bothering you?" "No," Xiao Lulang denied. The old chancellor asked, "Is it Marquis Xiao?" Xiao Lulang, "No." The old chancellor, "The court examination." Xiao Lulang, "No." The old chancellor pondered for a moment. "Jiao Jiao?" Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang changed the topic. "Aren't you tutoring little Jing Kong? How's his learning going?" Hey, you're changing the topic. When did you and that little monk get along so well?" The old chancellor didn't give up so easily, or else he wouldn't have insisted on moving here. His Ahung was no longer the carefree Ahung of the past. He locked himself up and didn't want to let himself go out. The old chancellor said earnestly, "I've always wanted to ask you, what are your plans between you and Jiao Jiao? When you fainted on the side of the road and were picked up by Jiao Jiao, it was the Gu family who forced you to marry her. Although you're husband and wife, you're not husband and wife." Xiao Lulang didn't say anything. The old chancellor continued, "You didn't leave her in the past because you were worried that she had nowhere to go. Now that this worry is gone, what are you still thinking about?" Xiao Lulang said, "I'm not thinking about anything." The old chancellor said again, "Then let me ask you again, why did you come to the capital?" You don't want to come back to this place for the rest of your life, right? Xiao Lulang opened his mouth. The old chancellor didn't give him a chance to answer. Don't tell me that Jiao Jiao forced you to come. Did she put a knife on your neck? Xiao Lulang lowered his eyes. No. The old chancellor sighed. Such a good girl. If you miss her, she won't be there anymore. If you don't cherish her, there will be others who will cherish her for you. I think Feng Lin is not bad, and Lin Xingye is also honest. Xiao Liulang's face turned black. Teacher. The old chancellor laughed. All right, I'm just kidding. They don't have that kind of interest in Jiao Jiao, but there's no guarantee that others will. This was the truth. Jiao Jiao was so outstanding. There would always be someone who would find her good and fancy her. My silly disciple is smart about everything, but this is the only area where she doesn't understand. After the old chancellor left, Xiao Lulang stayed in the study room for a long time until the sky was completely dark. Only then did he stand up and walk out. Gu Jiao was tidying up the courtyard. When he saw that there was no firewood in the woodshed, he picked up the axe to chop the firewood. Gu Jiao hurriedly walked over and took the axe from his hand. No need, let me do it. She was very insistent. Xiao Lulang went to the well to fetch water again, but she stopped him. Xiao Liulang's gaze landed on her hand that was carrying the water bucket. Her hand was slender, but it wasn't as delicate as a lady's. There were thin calluses on her palm, and there were knife marks on the web between her thumb and index finger. All the hardships she had suffered were on these hands. Xiao Lulang suddenly felt upset. What's wrong with you? Gu Jiao asked him. Jiao 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 Jiao. Little Jing Kong ran over with a piece of homework in his hand. Granduncle gave me a question. I finished it. Gu Jiao took it and looked at it. Although she couldn't understand it, the words were better than before. Great, Gu Jiao praised. Little Jing Kong didn't leave with his hands behind his back. What's wrong? Gu Jiao asked. Little Jing Kong said cutely, I want to eat sugar-coated haws. Gu Jiao nodded. Okay, I'll go buy it for you. Xiao Lulang said, I'm going to buy something too. Gu Jiao smiled. Then let's go together. Little Jing Kong jumped. I want to go too. Gu Jiao said softly, go to bed early. You still have to go to school tomorrow. I'll save the sugar-coated haws for you tomorrow morning. Little Jing Kong. Okay. It was so troublesome to be a kid. It felt so much better. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang went out. What do you want to buy? Gu Jiao asked on the way. Books, Xiao Lulang said. Gu Jiao thought for a while. It's not far. We'll pass by the study when we buy the sugar-coated haws. Xiao Lulang. Okay. The night in March was not that cold, but the cold wind still felt a little chilly. Xiao Lulang glanced at Gu Jiao discreetly. She didn't seem cold. The two soon arrived at the entrance of the study. Gu Jiao said regretfully, It's closed. What books do you want to buy? I'll buy them for you tomorrow. Xiao Lulang said casually, It's not urgent. I'll buy them after school tomorrow. Okay. The two continued to walk forward. They didn't know why they were so lucky today. The study was closed, and the sugar-coated haws stall was also closed. Gu Jiao's face was full of bitterness and hatred. Xiao Lulang looked at the street opposite the alley. He also likes to eat fried fruits. They sell them over there. Gu Jiao had eaten fried fruits in her previous life, but it was fried flour and somewhat like fried dough sticks. The fried fruits in the capital were mixed with glutinous rice and stuffing. Not only little Jing Kong liked it, Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan also liked it. But Gu Yan couldn't eat it. Gu Jiao decided to buy some fried fruits. Gu Jiao was the only one who felt that they were unlucky tonight. But Xiao Liulang's face darkened when he saw the fried fruit stall. The capital was so big. Why was he everywhere? The fried fruit stall had 2 tables, and Zhuang Yueshi and Prince An were sitting at one of the tables. Prince An also saw Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao. He smiled warmly at them. What a coincidence. You're also here to eat the food. His food has been cooked for many years, and it tastes good. You're from other places, so you haven't eaten it, right? Xiao Lulang thought. I've been eating it since I was young. Xiao Liulang's mood suddenly became irritable. The women's school was next to the medical center. Zhuang Yueshi had seen Gu Jiao before, so she knew that Gu Jiao was probably the female doctor of the Miracle Hands Hall. But they didn't pretend. She asked Princeton, "Brother, do you know her?" Princeton introduced, "Miss Gu is my classmate." Strictly speaking, the introduction of the couple should be my classmate and his wife. But Commander Prince automatically ignored something. Hearing that it was her brother's classmate, Zhuang Yueshi's expression cleared up. Soon she asked again, "Which Miss Gu?" Princeton's gaze fell on Gu Jiao, Ding and Marquis Fu's daughter. Ding and Marquis Fu only had 2 daughters. One was Gu Jinyu, and the other was the real daughter who grew up in the countryside. Was it this girl in front of them? She really looked. Zhuang Yueshi saw the red birthmark on Gu Jiao's left cheek and swallowed her question. She wasn't as arrogant as Zhuang Mengdai. Since her brother admitted that they were classmates, then she would treat them with respect. "Come and sit, we still have to wait for a long time." Prince said to the two. There was another table, but it was full. There was only an empty seat beside them. The two walked over and sat down. Gu Jiao sat next to Zhuang Yueshi, while Xiao Lulang sat next to Prince N. But this seat made Prince N and Gu Jiao face each other, while Zhuang Yueshi and Xiao Lulang face each other. Zhuang Yueshi only had her brother in her eyes, so she didn't stare at Xiao Lulang. But Prince N kept staring at Gu Jiao. Xiao Lulang frowned. What was wrong with him? Why did he come to buy fried fruits? There were many people buying fried fruits, so they waited for 15 minutes before it was their turn. During this time, Prince N and Zhuang Yueshi's fried fruits were ready, but Prince N gave it to someone else. Xiao Liulang's face darkened. Prince N exchanged a few words with the two, mostly asking questions like, "Why did you come out to eat so late? How did you come here? Is it far? Do you need me to send you back?" Zhuang Yueshi didn't notice her brother's special treatment of Gu Jiao and thought her brother was caring for his classmate. But Xiao Lulang knew that he wasn't that close to Prince N. After a while, Prince N talked about an astronomy book he read in Qin country. Gu Jiao was interested. When she was interested, her eyes would brighten and shine like stars. Xiao Lulang felt suffocated. Their fried fruits were ready, so Prince N paid for them. "No need." Xiao Lulang put the copper coins on the table coldly. "We'll buy it ourselves." Prince N spread his hands and smiled. Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao left. Prince N and Zhuang Yueshi also planned to get on the carriage and return home. At this moment, a dragon and lion dance troupe suddenly appeared on the street. It was a courtesan from a brothel. The entire Chang and Avenue was in an uproar. The crowd swarmed over and was about to drown them. Gu Jiao grabbed Xiao Liulang's wrist and dragged him through the crowd. Gu Jiao didn't stop until they entered Jade Water Alley. Then she heard a low laugh. Gu Jiao's body stiffened and she turned around. She saw that the person she was dragging wasn't Xiao Lulang, but Prince N. Gu Jiao. On the other side, Xiao Liulang's handsome face turned cold. That girl actually ran away with another man right in front of him. Digression. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/113461120. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 219. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet will be available here. This was the first time something like this had happened since the beginning of time. Even Zhuang Yueshi was stunned. What was going on? Why did her brother leave her behind and run away with another woman? That woman even had a family. In the alley, Gu Jiao looked at Prince gloomily. You did it on purpose? You even imitated his walk. Prince laughed. Yes, I did it on purpose. The moment he was caught, he knew she had made a mistake. She didn't walk too fast, but she carefully blocked the crowd for him. She rushed in front of him, but he didn't stop her and even lied to her. He wanted to walk further away before he exposed himself, but he couldn't hold it in anymore. Gu Jiao's face turned black. Prince said, I'm your patient and you're my doctor. You can't hit me. Gu Jiao clenched her fists and controlled her temper. She ignored him and walked away. Commandery Prince followed behind. The courtesan parade had passed, and the street had returned to its original tranquility. The two of them appeared one after another. Zhuang Yueshi lifted her dress and ran over impatiently. She held his arm and said, Brother, what happened just now? Nothing, get in the carriage, Prince said to her. But Zhuang Yueshi wanted to ask for an explanation on the spot, but Prince raised his hand and touched her head gently. Zhuang Yueshi's heart melted. She held her brother's hand and got into the carriage. Before they left, Prince smiled at Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang. Miss Gu, see you another day. Gu Jiao, Xiao Lulang. The carriage left, and only Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao were left in the empty street corner. The atmosphere was very awkward. Gu Jiao thought for a while and said, Would you believe me if I said I caught the wrong person? Xiao Lulang, Your husband is very angry, the kind that can't be appeased. On the way back, no one spoke. Gu Jiao mainly reflected on herself. She caught the wrong person and made her husband wait for her in the cold wind for so long. Xiao Lulang was angry. The more she didn't speak, the angrier he got. He couldn't tell what he was angry about. Finally, when he stepped over the threshold, he said, What did he mean by see you another day? Oh, Gu Jiao replied, He's a patient from the clinic. He'll be coming for a follow-up examination in a few days. There was actually a layer of doctor-patient relationship in it. Xiao Lulang clenched his fist and asked in a normal tone, What illness does he have? Gu Jiao said, This is the patient's privacy. I can't tell you. Very well, they had their own secret. Jiao Jiao little Jing Kong poked his head out from the door of the West Room. Gu Jiao didn't have time to gossip about Royal Prince with Xiao Lulang. It was already time, but little Jing Kong was still awake. It was obvious that he had crawled out of bed. Gu Jiao walked over and picked up the little guy. She put the fried fruit on the table and held his cold feet. She stuffed him into the quilt. Why aren't you sleeping? Little Jing Kong was tightly wrapped up. He didn't move at all like a well-behaved silkworm. Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao said, I didn't buy candied haws, only fried fruit. Do you want to try one? Yes. Little Jing Kong nodded obediently. Gu Jiao took a fried fruit and fed it to him. He ate it until his mouth was covered with oil. He was so satisfied that he narrowed his eyes. I want more, he said. You can't eat anymore. Gu Jiao poured him a cup of hot water to rinse his mouth. Go to sleep. You can eat tomorrow. Little Jing Kong was an obedient child. Soon, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. After washing up, Xiao Lulang lay down beside the little fellow, tossing and turning restlessly. When he finally fell asleep, he had another dream. The dream was a hasty and messy one. When he finally managed to break free from the enormous shackles and open his eyes, he found that he had returned to the Marquis estate. He was lying on a strange yet familiar bed, and in front of him was a strange yet familiar scene. There were servants standing in the room, but he had not seen them for so long that he could not remember their names. Wearing a yellow dress, Princess Xian Yang walked in with a gentle expression. Ahung, you've woken up. He stared at Princess Xinyang in a daze. Princess Xinyang sat down by his bedside and raised her hand to touch his forehead. What's wrong? Why are you looking at Mother like that? Don't you recognize your mother? She was so anxious that she rushed outside and shouted, Imperial physician, quickly call for an imperial physician. The imperial physician came and checked his pulse and body. he said to Princess Xinyang, replying to Your Highness, the young Marquis is fine. He should have been frightened, which is why he's like this. Princess Xinyang's eyes were filled with worry. Hung, are you all right? Don't scare me. I already told you not to go to the court exam. What's so good about the court exam? If you want to become an official, Mother will help you. You don't need to take the imperial exam. Court exam? He stared blankly at the room full of people. I've already passed the court exam. Princess Xinyang said, You passed. You had a conflict with someone during the court exam and accidentally fell. You've already been unconscious for many days. Without the fire from 4 years ago, he had grown up safely until now. Where's Jiao Jiao? He asked. Who's Jiao Jiao? Princess Xinyang asked. You're already married to Lin Lang. Don't fall in love with some other girl outside. Lin Lang will be sad. Jiao Jiao. He lifted the blankets and got out of bed. My legs. He looked at his legs in disbelief. He could walk without any injuries. That's right, there was no fire. Naturally, he did not wander among the people. He was not injured. Princess Xinyang shouted, Put on some clothes. It's cold outside. He quickly went to Baishui Lane. He arrived at his and Gu Jiao's home, but when he pushed open the door, it was empty. There was nothing inside. His heart sank. He knocked on the old chancellor's door. The one who opened the door was not the old chancellor. Instead, it was an unfamiliar man. He then went to Uncle Zhao's home. Uncle Zhao, it's me, Lu Lang. Uncle Zhao and Aunt Zhao looked at him with confusion. Who are you? He then went to the house next door. Aunt Zhang, it's me. I'm Lu Lang. Aunt Zhang's face was filled with confusion. He had never been here before. Nobody recognized him. He only felt his entire body turn cold. He remembered the medical clinic and hurriedly rushed over. The Miracle Hand Hall was still there, but the people in the Miracle Hand Hall did not recognize him. Finally, he saw that familiar little figure in the main hall. He quickly walked towards her. Just as he was about to call her Jiao Jiao, she looked at him with an extremely strange gaze and said to the doctor beside her, There's a patient. Take care of him. She walked past him and did not turn her head back once. An indescribable feeling of suffocation suddenly surged from the bottom of his heart, as if something was strangling his heart. This feeling was really uncomfortable. He forced himself to wake up. Then he realized that it was a dream. He did not return to the Marquis's mansion. He was still at home in Baishui Lane. Beside him was the little Jing Kong, who was snoring. The little Jing Kong was lying on his back with one of his little feet on his chest. No wonder he felt so uncomfortable in his dream. Was it because this little thing used its foot to press down on him? Xiao Lu Lang removed the little thing's foot. In the latter half of the night, he did not fall asleep again. As soon as he closed his eyes, he felt as if his heart was being strangled, just like when Gu Jiao did not recognize him anymore. This feeling was strange and uncontrollable. He could not suppress it even if he wanted to. The next day, when Gu Jiao woke up early, Xiao Lu Lang was already gone. Little Jing Kong was sleeping soundly. He did not know when his bad brother-in-law left. Lu Quan heard the noise and came over to knock on the courtyard door. Jiao Nyang, it's me. Gu Jiao opened the door for him. Uncle Lu, it's so early. Lu Quan smiled and said, Lu Lang came to find me. He said that he had something to do and went out first. I'll send Guyen and the others to school in a while. I've also made breakfast. I'll bring it over now. Oh, he was gone. His family had arranged it clearly. Gu Jiao did not think much of it. Thank you. In fact, she could send them, but Lu Quan would drive. The three little men could take the carriage to school. After they went to school, Gu Jiao went to the medical center. Today, another 2 critically ill patients were discharged. It was a joyous day. Then, she did not see Xiao Lu Lang early in the morning. She felt that something was missing. On the other side, Marquis Gu also planned to go out. Ever since Yao Shi moved to Jade Water Lane, she was not willing to move back. With Gu Jiao blocking her, he could not beat her in a fight or steal her away. Yao Shi had listened to him in the past, but ever since she had Gu Jiao, He felt that his position in Yao Shi's heart had plummeted. This could not go on. He had to find Yao Shi alone. He had calculated the time that Gu Jiao would go to the medical center. However, he had to go to the yamen at this time. After some hesitation, he decided to skip work. Putting aside his ability to handle matters, his attitude as an official was not bad. This was the first time in his career that he skipped work. However, for his wife, he was willing to risk it all. At the same time, he thought about it. After he brought Yao Shi back, he could go to the Ministry of Justice to see Jinyu. Jinyu had been locked up for so long. He must have suffered a lot. He set out with great ambition. However, as soon as he opened the door, he paused. Outside the door stood an old man in plain clothes. His figure was bigger and taller than him. His hair was silver, but he was hale and hearty. The bundle in Marquis Gu's hand fell to the ground. This was the gift he had prepared for Yao Shi. Father, why did you come back? He was so nervous that he stuttered. The old Marquis's sharp gaze fell on Marquis Gu's face. Shouldn't you be at the yamen at this time? There was no morning court today, but the yamen was not on holiday. Marquis Gu broke out in a cold sweat. I was just about to go. The old Marquis looked at the jewelry scattered on the ground. You brought these things? Marquis Gu went from stuttering to mute. Did his luck have to be this bad? The first time he skipped work, he was caught by his own father. The old Marquis had heard a basket of rumors about Marquis Ding, and on the way back to the capital, he was in a fit of anger. For Marquis Gu to be caught at this time was no different from sending himself to his death. Marquis Gu took a step back and raised his arm to block his face. My face is just fine. Marquis Gu had already set up a family. The old Marquis usually did not beat him unless he could not hold back. After a quarter of an hour, Marquis Gu's shrill screams came from his courtyard. Not far away, Huang Zhong helplessly covered his face. Sai could not bear to look. In the military camp, Gu Changqing received news that his grandfather had returned and immediately returned. At the same time, Gu Chengfeng of Qinhe Academy also heard the servant's report. What? My grandfather's back? The servant said with trepidation. That's right. Second young master, you must not run around after school. Remember to bring third young master back to the manor. Bring Gu Chenglin back to the manor? This was difficult to handle. Gu Chenglin's condition was getting worse and worse recently. Ever since Gu Chengfeng witnessed the bloody scene of the operation, he could no longer eat meat. He often mocked himself for being a monk. However, one day, a young monk really came to his courtyard. It was little Jingkong. Gu Chenglin was recuperating in Gu Jiao's courtyard. Little Jingkong had been coming to little Jingkong recently, so it was inevitable that he would occasionally bump into him. Little Jingkong did not know Gu Chenglin, nor was he clear about the grudge and relationship between him and Gu Jiao. He only thought that Gu Chenglin was an ordinary patient. Little Jingkong was a warm-hearted child. When he saw that Gu Chenglin was unhappy and restless, he proposed to recite Buddhist scriptures for him. In the past, when I was unhappy, my master would recite Buddhist scriptures for me. After that, I would be happy. Gu Chenglin was in a daze and ignored him. Little Jingkong only thought that he agreed. He diligently took out his little monk robe and small wooden fish, put on his Buddhist beads and monk's hat, sat cross-legged on the floor, and began to recite Buddhist scriptures for Gu Chenglin. Gu Chenglin did not react at first, but as he listened, he sat up straight. Tears flowed from his eyes, but he found peace in his heart. Bodhisattva can really save people from suffering, he asked in a daze. Little Jingkong said seriously, Of course. That's what Master said. Gu Chenglin suddenly stood up and bowed respectfully to little Jingkong. I want to be a monk. Little Master, please shave my head. Little Jingkong. Oh. Little Jingkong ran out and found a razor for shaving patient's leg hair. He began to shave Gu Chenglin's head. He shaved from left to right. When he was about to shave the right side, Gu Chengfeng arrived. Seeing this scene, Gu Chengfeng went crazy. What are you doing? Little Jingkong turned to look at Gu Chengfeng and said innocently, I'm shaving his head. He wants to be a monk. Gu Chengfeng. How old are you to shave someone's head? One of you dares to extend your head, and the other dares to shave it. Gu Chengfeng said with heartache, Grandfather is back. He wants you to go back, quickly. Gu Chenglin put his palms together and bowed to Buddha. I've become a monk. I'm no longer the young master of the Marquis Mansion, and I don't know your grandfather. I have nothing to do with the mundane world. Can my hair be reattached? Boo-hoo. Gu Chenglin returned to the Marquis Mansion with half of his bald head and half of his long hair. When he saw Gu Chenglin's unspeakable appearance, the old Marquis, who would not panic even if the sky fell, spat out a mouthful of tea. Digression. 2 words flashed in the old Marquis' mind. 2333. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/113437216. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 220. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. The old Duke did not know that Madame Yao and her son had returned to the capital. He thought that they were still at the hot spring villa, so he did not send them any news. He began to interrogate his son and 3 grandsons. What are the rumors in the capital about? He did not know if he did not interrogate them, but he was shocked when he did. So many major events had happened in the Duke's household in the years that he was not in the capital. The first to bear the brunt was Gu Jinyu's background. It was terrible that she was a child who was swapped. Then there was the matter of concubine Ling. This also explained why Gu Chenglin had become like this. Concubine Ling had already been punished by old Madame Gu. The old Duke did not ask if she was dead or alive. He did not have the time to care about a concubine. As for the real granddaughter's unwillingness to return to the Duke's household, he did not take it to heart. She was just a servant girl. There was no need to pay attention to her. Moreover, she was already married. A married daughter was like spilled water. She was no longer part of the Duke's household. The 4 of them did not mention that Gu Chenglin bullied Gu Yan and was beaten up by Gu Jiao. There was no benefit in saying it. They would still be beaten up. Gu Yan's body was weak and would be gone after a beating. No matter what mistakes he made, he would never be beaten. Furthermore, the ladies in the Marquis' residence were all brought up. Regardless of whether Gu Jinyu got into trouble or not, the old Marquis had never laid a finger on her. So Gu Jiao would not be beaten. But even if this was not mentioned, the Duke's household was in a mess. Those who skipped work and those who moved out moved out. If the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. They all had to be punished. Since Duke Gu had already beaten him, he would do it again. Duke Gu, are you still my biological father? The old Duke looked at Gu Chongqing. As the eldest brother, you did not restrain your 2 younger brothers. Should you be punished? Gu Chongqing lowered his eyes, as if he was enduring something. Yes. The old Duke said in a low voice. Okay, 100 military whips. Gu Chengfeng 50 lashes. Gu Chenglin also 50 lashes. Gu Chongqing said. Sendi has just recovered from his injuries. He can't take the whip. I will take the punishment on his behalf. Gu Chengfeng hurriedly said, I can also accept the punishment on behalf of 3rd brother. All right, I'll add another 20 lashes to each of you. After the old Marquis said coldly, he looked at Gu Chenglin, who only had half a head of hair left. If you can withstand the remaining 10 whips, I'll let it go. If you can't, I'll just take it that I don't have a grandson like you. The old Marquis is the most ruthless. When Gu Chongqing was teaching his 2 younger brothers a lesson, old Madame Gu still dared to cry, throw a tantrum, and threaten to hang herself. Under the old Duke's command, his son and grandson were whipped so hard that old Madame Gu did not even dare to make a sound. Marquis Gu was beaten black and blue. Enough. The old Marquis said, don't beat him to death. He still has to enter the palace and ask for punishment. Marquis Gu, who had nothing left to live for, you really are my father. The old Marquis brought his son into the palace to ask for punishment from the emperor. The old Marquis knelt down and bowed, cupping his fists. It's the father's fault for not teaching her well. That girl caused such a huge disaster, and it's all because this unfilial son spoiled her. This official has brought this unfilial son here for your majesty to deal with. The emperor glanced at Marquis Gu, whose face was bruised and swollen. He had already been beaten to this state. He had no place to lay his hands on him. The emperor coughed lightly and waved his hand. Forget it. Marquis Gu is not at fault in this matter. The girl is also young and immature. Just discipline her in the future. As for the reason for Gu Jinyu's punishment, the official explanation given was still that she had broken the imperial jade seal and had also committed the crime of deceiving the emperor. As for whether it was the bellows deceiving the emperor or the glutinous rice mortar deceiving the emperor, the officials did not specify in detail. But the more it was like this, the easier it was to achieve the effect of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, even if there was no evidence of the bellows, there were many people among the people who said that Gu Jinyu had falsely claimed the credit for the bellows. Strictly speaking, the main responsibility for this incident did not lie with Gu Jinyu. Although she had provided the blueprint for the modifications, it was the Ministry of Works' decision whether or not to use it. The Ministry of Works Manufacturing Department had long discovered that there was a problem with her modifications, but not only did they not stop it, they skipped the normal trial process and hired a large number of illegal workers to work on it. But the old Marquis could not absolve Gu Jinyu. He expressed that all of the losses would be borne by Marquis Ding and Fu. In addition, he requested that the emperor abolish Gu Jinyu's position as county princess. The emperor sighed. Ah, old Marquis, why bother? Zhen has already abolished her position as county princess. Just leave the position of county princess. Asking your majesty to take back the decree. The old Marquis persisted. The emperor had an expression of, since you're so insistent, then I can't not give you face. He decreed that Gu Jinyu's position as county princess was revoked. Gu Jinyu finally walked out of the Ministry of Justice, but she could not feel happy. Half a month ago, she was still a high and mighty second-rank county princess. Now, she had nothing. Falling on flat ground did not hurt. Falling from a high place hurt. Gu Jinyu returned to the Marquis Fu. She first returned to her courtyard to take a comfortable hot bath. After changing into clean clothes and tidying her appearance, she went to the parlor to pay respects to Marquis Gu. She choked with sobs, her eyes slightly red. Grandfather, Jin Yu knows her wrongs. Jin Yu is willing to go kneel in the ancestral hall as punishment. No need, the old Marquis said. Gu Jinyu's heart leaped with joy. Grandfather was not willing to punish her by kneeling. Grandfather still doted on her. The next second, she heard the old Marquis coldly say, "You are not a member of the Gu family. You do not have the right to kneel to the Gu family's ancestors. Also, in the future, do not call me grandfather." Gu Jinyu froze in place. The old Marquis had always been a strict and violent family head. He did not show any mercy when beating his children and grandchildren, except for Gu Yan and Gu Jinyu. Gu Jinyu had always believed that grandfather doted on them, but now she inexplicably felt that grandfather did not care about them at all. Gu Jinyu was wrong. It was not that the old Marquis did not care about them, but he simply did not care about her. The old Marquis doted on Gu Yan. Otherwise, he would not have given Gu Yan 2 secret guards. Even Gu Chengfeng and Gu Chenglin did not have them. The old marquis was a classic example of favoring boys over girls. He did not dote on his biological granddaughter, much less his biological granddaughter. After settling the matters in the residence, the old marquis once again entered the palace. The news of the old marquis returned to the capital quickly, swept through the capital. Almost everyone knew that the once all-powerful old general had returned. But so what if he had returned? He had long handed over his military power, and the Gu family army had also been incorporated into someone else's command. Gu Jiao had always paid no attention to outside matters. She did not know that the old marquis had returned. She was checking the medicine sent from the factory. This was the second batch of medicine custom-made for the military camp. She checked a few bottles. There was no problem with the quality. I don't have anything to do today. I'll deliver it. She also wanted to deliver something to Xuan Ningxiang's brother-in-law, Zhou Erzwang. Because she was delivering the medicine, Gu Jiao was able to enter the military camp. The soldiers had just finished practicing martial arts and were currently sitting in an open space to rest. The air was filled with the smell of sweat and weapons. It was a smell that she was familiar with from her previous life. Gu Jiao did not look at it too much. She rode a carriage to the medical officer's tent. The one who received her was a medical officer surnamed Lu. Gu Changqing had already greeted him a few days ago. Medical officer Lu was very polite to Gu Jiao, but he was also nervous and cautious as he said, "Don't run around in a while. Wait for me to finish testing the medicine before leaving." This morning, they had received news that an important person was coming to the military camp. This important person's status was too high. Even Marquis Xianping, who had not appeared for half a year, was called to the military camp. Marquis Xianping was still angry after waking up. He sat in the carriage for the entire journey and refused to get off. "You with the surname Ran, I think you don't want to work anymore." General Ran stood beside the carriage and cupped his hands. He respectfully bowed and said with a smile, "Marquis has wronged this official. How could this official dare to disturb Marquis's beautiful dream? Isn't this?" As he spoke, he looked around and took a step forward. He leaned close to the window and whispered, "Someone from the palace is coming." The general is afraid that he won't be able to handle the situation, so he told this official to invite Marquis over no matter what. Half of the Gu family's army is here. Ordinary people won't be able to handle them. "Marquis, you really have to come out." Marquis Xianping said indifferently, "Why would this Marquis come out?" General Ran embarrassedly opened the curtain. "Marquis, get off first. It's very stuffy in the carriage. This official has prepared good wine and dishes for you. I'll bring them to you in a while." It was indeed stuffy in the carriage. Marquis Xianping got off the carriage with a cold expression. General Ran continued, "It's not a big deal. The general's meaning is, in a while, you can lead the soldiers to practice. It's best to line them up and set up a formation. The more impressive it is, the better. I'll call everyone out." What's the point of making such a big scene? His Majesty doesn't understand. Marquis Xianping rolled up his sleeves and said indifferently, "It's just a blind thing." The emperor and the old marquis had just gotten off the carriage when they heard this rebellious sentence. The old marquis, the emperor, the latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/8964/89642826/113434215. HTML Genius remembers this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 221. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. The emperor felt that if he died one day, it would be because he was angered to death by Xiao Ji. The 3,000 beauties in the harem didn't empty his body, but Xiao Ji could pierce his heart with one sentence. The emperor immediately pulled a long face. The old marquis's face also sank. This Marquis Xianping was a modest gentleman when he didn't speak, but when he spoke, he was simply a hooligan. Marquis Xianping turned his head and saw the emperor's group. His handsome face didn't have the slightest bit of panic or guilt from being caught. He turned around, cupped his hands, and calmly and elegantly bowed. "This subject greets your majesty." To be honest, even civil officials didn't bow as elegantly as him. The emperor's heart was in turmoil. Even the most beautiful concubines didn't make his mood fluctuate like this. When General Ran heard "Your Majesty," he was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly turned around and bowed deeply. The old marquis was standing next to the emperor, but the old marquis was wearing a mask, so General Ran didn't recognize him. General Ran's heart was also in turmoil. Was it really that exciting? Did His Majesty hear the conversation just now? Would His Majesty chop off his and Marquis Xianping's heads in a fit of anger? No, it was Marquis Xianping who said those words. He was implicated. General Ran wanted to cry. Marquis Xianping calmly said, "Your Majesty came at the right time. This subject was just about to train the troops. Would Your Majesty like to watch?" The emperor's eyes were cold. I don't understand." Marquis Xianping smiled faintly. The experts see the skill, while the laymen see the excitement. The emperor, sooner or later, he would be angered to death by this guy. The emperor and Marquis Xianping were related by marriage. He married Marquis Xianping's sister, and Marquis Xianping married his sister. The emperor would often wonder, how did he end up with this fellow as his brother-in-law? He came with the old marquis today to watch the troops train. He took the old marquis to the observatory. When the old marquis and Marquis Xianping's lips. "Old monkey." The old marquis trembled. "Damn it, I want to beat him to death." The old marquis was so angry that he cursed in his heart, and his mask was almost crooked. The two of them went up to the observation deck, and all the soldiers in the barracks were called to the field. There were a total of 8 large and small military camps in the capital. The original Gu clan army had been assigned to different military camps. Among them, the Tiger Mountain camp had the most Gu clan army. Hushan Barracks was the territory of the great general of flying cavalry. In his early years, the great general of flying cavalry did not get along well with the old marquis. If the Gu army fell into his hands, the consequences could be imagined. All these years, the Gu army had been tortured by him. Everyone gritted their teeth and did not cause any trouble. It was mainly because of what the old duke had said: "You are the Gu army, but you are not loyal to me or any general. You are loyal to the emperor of Zhao country. You are protecting the citizens of Zhao country, including your family and mine." Yes, they were also guarding their own families and the old marquis's family. After Gu Chongqing entered the Tiger Mountain camp, the Gu clan army was even more patient. No matter how the great general of flying cavalry deliberately targeted them, they would not be deserters. They silently guarded Gu Chongqing, looking forward to the day when he could be like the old marquis and gather all the Gu clan army together and go to the battlefield to kill the enemy again. It was just that Gu Chongqing's days in the barracks could not be considered comfortable. He had been injured the most, so it was impossible to say that he was not targeted. Why did he invite Marquis Xianping over today? Wasn't it because the great general of flying cavalry was worried that once he appeared, the Gu clan army would be filled with hostility and make the situation too ugly? All the soldiers, including the Gu clan army, were lined up neatly. Marquis Xianping mounted his horse and began the day's roll call. The moment he put on his armor and helmet, his entire person's aura became strong in an instant. He was flamboyant, domineering, and arrogant. No one paid attention to the handsome face under the helmet anymore. They were all shocked by the murderous aura in his eyes. Golden spears and armored horses. One person could fight against thousands of soldiers and horses. This was a man born for the battlefield. He had 9 deaths and 9 deaths. He had won battles and also suffered defeats. He could afford to lose, but when he won, he never flinched. The emperor's blood boiled as he watched, and he wished he could go to war. Alas, forget it, I won't punish him. The old Marquis looked at the Gu clan army that he had brought up single-handedly with a complicated expression. The emperor forcibly withdrew his attention, which had been attracted by Marquis Xianping, and turned to ask the old Marquis, "Does the old Marquis regret that I handed them over to the great general of flying cavalry?" It was not that the Gu clan army was smooth sailing in other barracks, and was not rejected by others. It was just that it was the most serious under the command of the great general of flying cavalry. Even Gu Changqing had suffered many losses and sufferings. The old Marquis sighed and said, "They are the sons of Zhao country. The sufferings they suffered today were for your Majesty's great cause. I have no regrets, and they have no regrets." Only when they were assigned to the great general of flying cavalry, who was the most difficult to deal with, could it show that the emperor was deliberately making things difficult for the old Marquis. Only then would the old Marquis have enough reason to be bitterly disappointed with His Majesty. If he broke off with His Majesty, no one would suspect that he continued to secretly work for His Majesty. The emperor also sighed and said, "Then I will find an opportunity to transfer Changqing to the front of the emperor. I heard that he was accidentally injured during training last year. This kind of situation is not uncommon." Even if he knew that Gu Changqing would not complain to Marquis Gu, the emperor did not deliberately gloss over things. A trace of complexity flashed through the old Marquis's eyes. The battlefield is far crueler than the barracks. If he can't even withstand this setback, how can he lead troops to war in the future? Your Majesty and I are well aware that the war will definitely start. Yes, there would be a war. That day would come sooner or later. Now, every additional bit of training would increase the possibility of survival on the battlefield. No matter how much the great general of flying cavalry targeted Gu Changqing, he would not brazenly take his life. The enemy was the one who would not show mercy. At this point, the emperor could not say anything more. After the training was over, the emperor and the old Marquis walked down from the observation platform. Thinking of something, the emperor said to the old Marquis, "By the way, there is something I forgot to congratulate the old Marquis. Changqing has broken through to the 13th level." These words were said without rhyme or reason, but the old Marquis immediately understood. That was the 18 Arhats formation he had set up in the cave behind the mountain in his early years. There were 18 levels in total, and each level was more dangerous and difficult than the last. So far, the best result was Gu Changqing. He had broken through to the 13th level last month. The nephew of the great general of flying cavalry was close behind and had broken through to the 12th level. It was said that he had been practicing well recently and was planning to break through to the 13th level as well. There were some slight changes made inside and increased the difficulty. "Does the old Marquis want to take a look?" the emperor asked. The old Marquis cupped his hands. Yes. In the medical officer's tent, Dr. Liu was diligently inspecting the medicine sent by Gu Jiao. The inspection of medicine in the military camp was very strict. Today, the other medical officers were not present, so he would not be able to inspect it so quickly by himself. Gu Jiao sat in the military tent, bored to death. It was quite embarrassing for a girl to be alone in a room with a man like him. Dr. Liu smiled and said, "Miss Gu, please sit for a while. If you are really bored, you can go outside for a walk. Remember not to go too far, and do not go beyond the tent in front." If it was someone else, Dr. Liu would not be so considerate, but who asked him to be someone Gu Changqing had greeted before. Gu Changqing did not say that she was his sister. Perhaps it was because the cold-faced Yama had personally come out to greet her that the relationship between the two was not simple. As for how complicated it was, Dr. Liu did not gossip about it. Gu Jiao was not the most uncomfortable person in the military tent. Instead, it was the man, Dr. Liu. Gu Jiao had observed his awkward demeanor several times. If this went on, who knew how long it would take for the medicine to be finished? She still had to go back to the Imperial College to pick up Xiao Lulang and little Jinkong from school. As this thought flashed through her mind, Gu Jiao decided to go out for a walk so that Dr. Liu could concentrate on improving his efficiency. Tiger Mountain Barracks was next to a mountain, and that mountain was called Tiger Mountain. That was how it got its name. Dr. Liu only said that she was not allowed to walk past the tent in front, but did not say that she could not go to the back of the mountain. She did not go too far and just strolled for a while. Unexpectedly, she accidentally saw a gray, fat rabbit. It was very cute. Gu Jiao had nothing to do, so she grabbed the rabbit. Although the rabbit was fat, it did not have good reflexes. She was not careful and let it go into the grass. "Oh, little thing, you run away quite fast." Gu Jiao chased after it and chased it into a cave. At first, she thought it was an ordinary cave, but the more she walked, the more spacious it became. Something was wrong. On the other side, the Emperor and the old Duke came to the entrance of the 18 Arhats formation. The entrance was no different from an ordinary cave. Usually, there was no one guarding it because there was nothing valuable inside. There were only traps that could kill people. The soldiers in the barracks knew the key points, so they usually would not come here. Today, the Emperor was coming, so a guard was arranged at the last minute. The guard just went to the toilet and returned to his post to find the Emperor leading his masked subordinate over. "I'm so lucky." The guard secretly broke out in a cold sweat. The guard saluted the Emperor with his hands folded. The Emperor waved his hand, indicating that he should retreat to the side. The guard tactfully retreated. The Emperor said to the old Duke, "The array that was left in the past has not changed, but some hidden arrows have been added. It is more difficult to break through than before." "Was it General Piaoqi's idea?" the old Duke asked. "Yes." The Emperor sighed. It was added the day before Chongqing went to break through. There was no one else who could use such a method to deal with Gu Chongqing. The old Duke did not say anything. It was the Emperor who spoke. Chongqing was injured at that time. It was when the furnace exploded. He broke through the array with injuries and was able to break through to the 13th level. It is really rare. I'm afraid that even General Piaoqi did not expect Chongqing to be so powerful. The old Duke still did not say anything. Only by breaking through the 18th level could he be qualified to revive the Gu army. Boom! A loud noise suddenly came from the cave. The old Duke and the Emperor's faces changed. What's going on? Something happened inside? The old Duke's white eyebrows twisted. Someone is breaking through the array. The Emperor called the guard, who went in. The guard shook his head. "No. I didn't see," the Emperor frowned. "You were here all this time?" This servant went to the toilet. The guard did not dare to hide, but this servant will be back soon, and no one in the military camp will break through the array casually. The Emperor asked suspiciously, "Then what's the noise inside?" This array was created by the old Duke. He could tell which level the array had been activated just by the sound. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In such a short time, it had already reached the 7th level. But this alone was not enough to attract the old Duke's attention. Soon, the mechanisms of the 80th and 90th levels were activated. The speed was too fast. The old Duke frowned. Was someone really breaking through the array? Or was the array activated by itself? "Are you sure no one went in?" the Emperor asked. This servant. The guard was suddenly unsure. The noise inside reached the 13th level. The old Duke's eyebrows were tightly knitted. Was it Chongqing? Gu Chongqing had broken through to the 13th level. But just as this thought flashed through his mind, the array of the 14th level was quickly activated. The old Duke's expression finally changed. At the 15th level, the array stopped. For some reason, the old Duke breathed a sigh of relief. But before he could finish his sigh of relief, 16, 17, 78, it was inconceivably fast. Without waiting for people to recover from their shock, the array returned to calm. The array only had one entrance and one exit. Only after breaking through the 18th level could one leave from the exit. Otherwise, one could only return to the entrance. The old Duke let the guard go around to the back exit to take a look. The guard quickly turned back and reported, "I didn't see anyone." The Emperor was stunned and asked the old Duke, "Do you suspect that someone broke through? 18 levels? And in such a short period of time?" The old Duke also felt that it was impossible. He shook his head. Maybe the mechanism malfunctioned. I'll get someone to fix it later. Digression. The double event has begun. Everyone who has a monthly ticket can start a vote. Everyone please support Jiao Jiao. Bow and thank you. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhpqg.com/89642_896422826/113404184. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www.zhpqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. zhpqg.com. Chapter 222. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao carried the little rabbit back to the tent. Sure enough, it was much faster to settle down. Dr. Lu finished checking all the medicine. He looked up and saw Gu Jiao carrying a little rabbit over. He couldn't help but be surprised. Where did this rabbit come from? I picked it up from the back of the mountain. Gu Jiao said. Back of the mountain? Dr. Lu thought to himself. She couldn't have gone there, right? What's wrong with you? Gu Jiao felt that Dr. Lu was looking at her strangely. You didn't enter any cave, right? Dr. Lu asked carefully. I can't enter? Gu Jiao asked strangely. Dr. Lu said, Of course you can't enter. You'll die if you enter. Gu Jiao stroked the rabbit and said calmly, Oh, then I didn't enter. Dr. Lu, did you enter or not? Forget it, she probably didn't enter. Otherwise, how could she have come out alive with such powerful traps? Dr. Lu settled the remaining payment for Gu Jiao and told Gu Jiao that if the response to this batch of medicine was good, then there would be an order for another 1,000 bottles. The demand for the medicine in the military camp was huge. As long as Gu Jiao firmly grasped this order, the medicine factory would soon be able to recoup their costs. Gu Jiao thanked him and carried the little rabbit out of the military camp. Xiao Sanzi saw the little rabbit in her arms and became interested. Miss Gu, where did this little rabbit come from? It's so cute. It's really cute. Gu Jiao nodded. I'll braise it tonight. Xiao Sanzi, fat rabbit. In the end, Gu Jiao didn't succeed in eating the rabbit meat because little Jiangli took a fancy to this fat rabbit. The little girl was introverted and didn't talk much. However, she was diligent and ate, so everyone in the medical hall liked her. This is for you. Gu Jiao passed the little rabbit to little Jiangli. Can I really raise a rabbit? Little Jiangli had never raised anything in her life. She and her brother couldn't afford it. Yes. Gu Jiao nodded. But you have to clean it up yourself. I will. Who do I belong to? Little Jiangli nodded his head like he was pounding garlic and hugged the little fat rabbit tightly in his arms. It was her first pet, and she liked it very much. Thank you, Sister Gu. Gu Jiao handed the remaining payment of the golden sore medicine to shopkeeper Wang, and then went to the Imperial College to pick up Xiao Luleng and little Jing Kong from school. The first to come out was little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong carried a small school bag on his back and walked among a group of 7 or 8-year-old children with a serious face. He looked out of place and a little funny. He thought it was his bad brother-in-law who came to pick him up, so he didn't have a good expression. However, it was Gu Jiao. He immediately turned into a cute little thing and ran towards Gu Jiao. Jiao Jiao. He raised his little head and looked at Gu Jiao cutely. Gu Jiao looked at his sweaty face and asked, "Why are you sweating so much?" Little Jing Kong said, "We have a race today." The Imperial College wasn't a place where students only studied. They paid great attention to the all-round development of the children. It was said that when the children grew up, they would be taught how to play the zither, equestrian, and archery. It was a proper incubation class for aristocrats. Gu Jiao took a handkerchief and wiped Little Jing Kong's sweat. Little Jing Kong handed his little head over and let Gu Jiao wipe his sweat. His buzz cut grew a little longer, and he should be able to tie it into a ponytail in winter. "I got first place, they can't outrun me," a certain little thing said smugly. Gu Jiao wasn't surprised by this. He would wake up before dawn to cultivate every day. His physique was very good. After Gu Jiao wiped Little Jing Kong's sweat, Lu Quan came over. Lu Quan came to pick up Little Jing Kong. The Imperial College invited the Grand Secretary of the Cabinet to explain the techniques of the court examination to the examinees next month. Lu Lang said he might end the class very late. The little chancellor didn't attend this kind of class in the past. However, Lu Quan didn't say this. Lu Quan said, "I will send you back first and go to Qinghe Academy later." Gu Yan and Gu Shaoshun were going to Master Lu's place to learn skills after school. Gu Jiao said, "No need, we can walk back. It's not a long walk. Uncle Lu, go and pick up Ai Yan and Shaoshun." "That's fine too." Lu Quan agreed and drove the carriage to Qinghe Academy. Gu Jiao and Little Jing Kong went back to Bai Shui Alley. Xiao Lulang came back very late, and the whole family was asleep. There was an oil lamp in the central room for him. He didn't need to guess to know who left it. Xiao Liulang's eyes moved, and when he was about to go back to his room, the door of the opposite room opened. Gu Jiao walked out in a plain set of pajamas. "Are you hungry? I left some food for you. I'll go heat up." "I'm not hungry," Xiao Lulang said. "I've eaten." He planned to go in just like that, but after a pause, he couldn't help but ask her, "It's so late. Why are you still awake?" "I'm waiting for you," Gu Jiao said. The sudden straightforwardness made Xiao Liulang's heart feel like it was being rubbed by something. Xiao Lulang looked at her thin body in pajamas, composed himself, and said, "It's cold outside. You should go back to your room and sleep." "I'll sleep soon too." "Are you still angry with me?" Gu Jiao tilted her head and asked. "No." He said, "I'm not angry." Gu Jiao said, "Oh," but didn't go back to her room. Instead, she stood at the door and looked at him with innocent eyes. Knowing that she was playing tricks, Xiao Liulang's heart suddenly softened. He surrendered, opened his mouth, and said softly, "I think I'm a little hungry." Gu Jiao smiled. "I'll heat up the food for you." Xiao Lulang looked at her thin pajamas, hesitated, and said, "Put on some clothes." "Okay." Gu Jiao went back to her room and put on a coat, then went to the kitchen to heat up the food. She had put it aside for him before dinner. There was corn keel soup, steamed bread, braised pork ribs, and a few cold dishes. Gu Jiao also boiled a few pieces of vegetables. Xiao Lulang sat down to eat. Gu Jiao sat across from him, resting her chin on her hands and resting her elbows on the table, looking at him. So beautiful. It wasn't the first time Xiao Lulang was looked at by her. This girl's eyes were really more open than his. The room was very quiet. Ever since the family members grew, he rarely ate alone with her like this. It was as if they had returned to the past. After Xiao Lulang finished his dinner, his stomach and body warmed up. The two cleaned up the dishes and went back to their rooms. Before entering the room, Gu Jiao turned around and asked him again, "Are you really not angry?" Xiao Lulang took a deep breath and said stubbornly, "I'm not angry." Gu Jiao had a big heart. She believed him when he said he wasn't angry. Gu Jiao said, I wanted to make it up to you, but since you're not angry, then forget it. Xiao Lulang. Wait, how are you going to make it up to me? He felt like he had missed out on something. See you tomorrow. Gu Jiao entered the room. Xiao Lulang. The workload at the Imperial College had increased recently. At first, Xiao Lulang didn't want to skip classes, but later on, he couldn't even if he wanted to. The emperor attached great importance to the court examinations and sent many ministers to pass on knowledge to the examinees. Even though the court examinations didn't eliminate people and only examinees entered as grand scholars, who would want to be a grand scholar? They were all aiming to become grand scholars. As the court examinations approached, the atmosphere at the Imperial College became tense again. At the medical hall, the last critically ill patient wrapped in red cloth was discharged. Now, only Jiang Shi was left in the miracle hall. His condition was serious, and he would probably need another 2 to 3 months of treatment. Gu Jiao went to give Jiang Shi an 4 drip. Just as she finished, she heard an unusual commotion outside the medical hall. Gu Jiao thought it was a medical dispute, but when she went downstairs, she realized it wasn't. Why are there so many people here? Gu Jiao asked as she looked at the crowd at the entrance. The second boss sent Xiao Sanzi to find out. Xiao Sanzi quickly returned. I heard that the crown princess is giving a lecture at the women's school. Even students who aren't from there can attend. These people are here for no reason. They want to attend the crown princess's lecture. As it turned out, the crown princess had been grounded by the emperor because of the chain bridge incident. Now that the order had been lifted, in order to save the imperial house's face and to increase the imperial house's reputation among the people, this was the cause of today's commotion. The heat of the chain bridge incident had already passed. Recently, there were rumors that the crown princess paternal family had used the crown princess's name to block the bridge and burn incense. It had nothing to do with the crown princess. The crown princess had been implicated by her paternal family. The opinions of the people were mixed. Some felt sorry for the crown princess, while others felt that the rumors could not be trusted. But no matter what, the crown princess was giving a lecture. Most people were not willing to give up this chance to meet the crown princess. After all, this was likely the only time they would see her in their lives. The crown princess's lecture hall was full. She was teaching chess. The crown princess was not the only one sent to teach at the women's school. There was also the Rui Wang's consort, Du Qianqian. Du Qianqian's qin skills were among the top 3 in Zhao country. However, under the crown princess's strong halo, no one noticed that she had come. Her lecture hall was empty. There were only 2 students. One was Li Wanwan, who truly liked to learn the qin. The other was Du Xiaoyun, who she had forced to stay in the lecture hall. Digression, Jiao Jiao. Should I go and support my best friend? Please don't stop. Thank you. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels to read for free. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964282/113401072. HTML Genius remembers this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com BQG's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 223. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Du Xiaoyun wanted to slip away. Consort Rui Wang sternly shouted, "Stop right there." Du Xiaoyun's scalp tightened as she obediently sat back down in her chair. Du Xiaoyun was worried to death. The Crown Prince Consort finally came to the women's school. She wanted to see the Crown Prince Consort. She was sitting in her chair, but her eyes kept glancing outside. It was obvious that she didn't want to sit here. Consort Rui Wang was unbearably angered by her younger sister. She glared at her younger sister in exasperation. She almost grabbed a candlestick and threw it at her. What kind of sin did she commit in her past life to have such a sister who sided with outsiders? Fortunately, Li Wanwan was sincerely listening to the class. She sat on the cushion across from Consort Rui Wang. There was a guqin on the small table in front of her. It was the guqin that musician Xia had given her during the exam before the new year. The sound quality was very good. She liked it very much and cherished it very much. She would carefully take care of it every day so that it wouldn't be contaminated by any dust. Li Wanwan was very satisfied with today's class. She was the daughter of a poor family and couldn't play with most of the daughters in the women's school. She couldn't even get a seat in the guqin room, let alone a good seat in class. She was always the one in the corner of the last row, far away from the teachers. Now that she was very close to Consort Rui Wang, she could hear more and see more clearly. Consort Rui Wang's anger from her younger sister finally dissipated a lot because of the good student Li Wanwan's serious request. She began to properly teach Li Wanwan. That's right, she only taught Li Wanwan. Du Xiaoyun, that girl, was in Cao Cao's camp, but her heart was elsewhere. She couldn't listen to anything. Consort Rui Wang wasn't in a hurry to start the class. Instead, she first had Li Wanwan play a song to understand Li Wanwan's level. Li Wanwan played the song Autumn Frost that she learned this year. The tune was mellow and the sound was melodious. It wasn't difficult, but it had high requirements for details. You played well. Consort Rui Wang nodded. It's just that your finger technique is a little lacking. How long have you been learning the zither? Li Wanwan replied, replying to Consort Rui Wang's question. This humble girl has already studied for a year. Only a year? Consort Rui Wang was stunned. She praised, then you didn't play well. You played very well. Li Wanwan lowered her eyes, because someone was giving her pointers. Consort Rui Wang gave her some pointers. Li Wanwan wasn't considered a genius when it came to learning the zither, but her ability to learn was pretty good. Rui Wang said, "You've pretty much mastered this song. Go back and practice it. I'll teach you a new song today." In another large classroom at the end of the corridor, there were no empty seats. Even the corridor and the windows were filled with people. Fortunately, it was on the first floor. Otherwise, many people would have fallen to their deaths. The Crown Prince Consort's attire today was very elegant. She wasn't wearing the complicated and luxurious Crown Prince Consort's palace attire. Instead, she was wearing a white immortal dress. Her ethereal aura made her look like an otherworldly fairy. There was a cinnabar mole between her eyebrows. It didn't make her look coquettish. Instead, it made her look even more beautiful and beautiful. When she sat there, she looked like a master's landscape painting. The classroom was very quiet. No one dared to make a sound for fear of disturbing her. There was a wall-mounted chessboard in the classroom. She personally set up a chessboard. This is a chessboard set up by old Mr. Meng. Old Mr. Meng was the most famous chess master in the Six Nations. The chessboard he set up was reputed to be one of the most difficult to solve in the Six Nations. Everyone couldn't help but sigh with emotion. As expected of the Crown Prince Consort, she set up such a formidable chessboard. It looked like their trip today wasn't in vain. Crown Prince Consort, do you know old Mr. Meng's chessboard? A bold daughter asked. The Crown Prince Consort smiled. Before she could speak, a female official beside her said, Crown Prince Consort knew how to solve it when she was 13. Gasps could be heard in the classroom. How terrifying was her ability to solve old Mr. Meng's chessboard at the age of 13. Actually, it's not difficult to solve this chessboard. The Crown Prince Consort pointed at the chessboard and started her explanation. After the lesson, everyone learned a lot. In the future, no one would dare to underestimate their chess skills. After all, they were the ones who could solve old Mr. Meng's chessboard. The Crown Prince Consort said warmly, I'm teaching everyone how to solve this chessboard to tell everyone that chess skills aren't difficult. As long as you put your heart into it, you can solve any chessboard in the world. But at the same time, I hope everyone can understand a principle. I started learning chess when I was 2 years old. True chess skills don't have any shortcuts. You can't make rapid progress. You need to practice hard every day. These words were no different from admitting that she wasn't a genius girl. Everything she had was the result of her hard work. Admitting her inadequacies did make people roll their eyes at times. Instead, it made her seem down to earth. It unintentionally closed the gap between her and her students. As long as I work hard, can I be as outstanding as the Crown Prince Consort? Another noble daughter asked. The Crown Prince Consort smiled warmly. Everyone has their own excellence. Your hard work will make you even more outstanding. Heavens, what kind of Crown Prince Consort was this? Wasn't she too humble? Where did those rumors about her occupying the cable bridge and not allowing the common people to pass come from? That was too deranged. It was clearly her maternal family who did it. She was just implicated by her maternal family. The effect of this lesson was obvious. If everyone only believed the Crown Prince Consort 50 to 60% in the beginning, it was 80 to 90% now. Also, the Crown Prince Consort looked outside the door and said softly, the classroom is full. It seems that no one can come in. Actually, Consort Rui Wang also came here today to teach everyone. Her Guqin skills are above mine. Girls who want to learn the Guqin can go listen to Consort Rui Wang's lesson. No. We only want to listen to your lesson. Consort Rui Wang and the Crown Prince Consort didn't get along for a day or two. Consort Rui Wang would be jealous of the Crown Prince Consort every few days, but the Crown Prince Consort never argued with her. Now, she was even helping her pull in more students. Too considerate. What reason did they have to not like, love, or be fans of this kind of Crown Prince Consort? In the second lesson, there really were a few noble daughters who went to Consort Rui Wang's classroom. Consort Rui Wang thought that it was her Guqin that attracted them. So she worked hard in class as if she was on steroids. In the end, she asked after class. It was the Crown Prince Consort who told us to come over. Consort Rui Wang's face instantly darkened. Consort Rui Wang hugged her Guqin case aggrievedly to Gu Jiao's place to seek comfort. Perhaps because she was too engrossed in complaining, she actually left her Guqin in Gu Jiao's courtyard when she left. In the afternoon, Royal Prince An came to the medical center. He came to check on his eyes. Gu Jiao brought him to the consulting room and gave him a checkup as usual. She was calm and collected from the beginning to the end, as if the awkwardness that night did not happen between them. Gu Jiao was already relieved. She would not take this kind of thing to heart. Royal Prince An smiled bitterly. He was really the only one who cared about it. How do you feel? Gu Jiao asked. Much better. Royal Prince An said with a smile. He was not being polite. It was indeed much better. He didn't feel much after taking it for the first 3 nights, but from the 4th night onwards, he realized that he could feel a trace of light. God knew how long he had been tortured by this illness. Any of his weaknesses could bring fatal disaster to himself, so he had been walking on thin ice all these years. Gu Jiao nodded. Continue to take the medicine and change your diet. Eat more internal organs. Royal Prince An didn't like to eat those, but since you said it, then he would listen. Okay. Gu Jiao looked at him. Did you catch a cold? His voice didn't sound right. Royal Prince An smiled and said, I can see the light at night. I was so happy that I went to sit in the courtyard for a while. Not in the courtyard, but on the roof. It was hard for others to understand the joy of almost regaining his sight. Your hand. Gu Jiao pointed at the pulse pillow on the table. Royal Prince An put his hand on it obediently. Gu Jiao checked his pulse and took back her hand. It's not serious. You don't need to take medicine. Why is there a doctor who doesn't prescribe medicine? Don't you need to earn money? Royal Prince unteased her. Gu Jiao glanced at him. The consultation fee is 10 taels. Royal Prince and laughed. Okay. Not to mention 10 taels. He was willing to give 100 taels. Zhuang Yueshi came out of the girls' school after class and saw her brother's carriage parked in front of the medical center. She frowned. Did her brother come to pick her up? Or why did he park the carriage over there? Zhuang Yueshi didn't wait for Zhuang Mengdai. She went to the medical center alone. The medical center was busy at the moment, and there was no extra staff to serve her. She walked in and heard her brother's voice. She came to the consultation room and opened the half-closed door. She looked through the gap and saw Royal Prince and smile after being extorted for 10 taels. It was a smile that Zhuang Yueshi had never seen on Royal Prince An's face. Royal Prince An was not a nice beauty, but he had never smiled so sincerely before. He looked at the person with his eyes full of light. The person he was looking at didn't notice it or didn't care. She buried her head and tidied up her things. Zhuang Yueshi's fingers suddenly clenched. Xiao Lulang finished class late recently. Gu Jiao went to pick up little Jing Kong today. Little Jing Kong was the happiest. He was the first to rush out of the classroom and ran to the gate like a little whirlwind. Jiao Jiao. He was sweating all over again. Gu Jiao wiped his sweat. Were you good today? Good. I'm the best. Little Jing Kong said seriously. Really? Gu Jiao held his hand. What did you learn today? Little Jing Kong held Gu Jiao's hand and skipped forward. I learned the Analects of Confucius and arithmetic today. Did you learn everything? Gu Jiao asked softly. Little Jing Kong patted his chest. Of course. I'm not as stupid as my brother-in-law. Gu Jiao corrected him. Your brother-in-law is not stupid. He's very smart. Little Jing Kong seriously doubted the intelligence of his bad brother-in-law. Why was he always the last in the exam if he was smart? The two talked happily as they crossed the street and came to a shop. They walked past a few shops and turned into Bisui Alley. Before they took 2 steps, Gu Jiao's ears suddenly moved. She grabbed little Jing Kong and lifted him up. Then she took a big step to the side. Bang! A huge flower pot smashed into the place where they were just standing. It was smashed into pieces, and mud and flowers splashed all over the ground. Little Jing Kong opened his eyes wide. Gu Jiao hugged him with one hand and covered his head with the other. She didn't let him see and let him lie on her shoulder. She looked at the window coldly and said softly, It's okay. I fell down by accident. Gu Jiao didn't chase after them. She carried little Jing Kong all the way home. Gu Jiao went home. On the other hand, the crown princess, who had been teaching Go at the girls' school all day, also returned to the imperial palace. She first went to the cunning palace to greet Empress Xiao and report the teaching situation. Noble consort Zhuang was also there. Greetings to imperial mother and consort mother. Strictly speaking, she didn't need to salute noble consort Zhuang. However, noble consort Zhuang was the birth mother of the eldest son of the emperor. Her status was incomparable to that of an ordinary concubine. Besides, the Zhuang family was very powerful. Noble consort Zhuang was almost on the same level as Empress Xiao in the harem. Noble consort Zhuang smiled. Empress Xiao asked, Come and sit down. I heard that consort Rui Wang left at noon. Why did you come back so late? The crown princess sat down beside Empress Xiao and explained softly there were too many students, so there were 2 extra classes in the afternoon. How could Empress Xiao not know that there were extra classes? She asked this extra question just to show off in front of noble consort Zhuang. Empress Xiao sent the crown princess to teach at the girls' school. Noble consort Zhuang didn't want to benefit the crown princess alone, so she asked consort Rui Wang to teach at the girls' school. As a result, few people went to consort Rui Wang's class. Wasn't this asking for humiliation? Empress Xiao took the crown princess's hand with satisfaction and patted the back of her hand intimately. I just received the news that the envoys of the Liang state are coming. His Majesty is going to hold a welcome banquet for them. His Majesty appointed you to hold it. If the palace banquet was held by the crown princess, then the task of receiving the envoys would most likely fall on the crown prince. The eldest prince and His Majesty had made Empress Xiao envious of them. Now, they had turned the tables. It was all because of her capable Linlang. Noble consort Zhuang rolled her eyes and smiled calmly. It turns out that His Majesty appointed the crown princess to hold the palace banquet? That's great. The crown princess's ability is obvious to all. Unlike Consort Ning and Consort Rui Wang, who are clumsy and can't do anything. If they go, they will only make trouble. It's better to stay in the mansion and take care of the fetus. The crown princess's expression froze slightly. Empress Xiao pinched her handkerchief and suppressed the sudden anger. She said to the crown princess, "Noble consort Zhuang came here to tell me the good news. Consort Ning is also pregnant." At the mention of this, Empress Xiao felt as if her heart was being stabbed. It was fine that Consort Rui Wang was pregnant, but how come Consort Ning was also pregnant in just a few days? Consort Ning was already pregnant for the third time. The first two were all daughters, and His Majesty didn't think highly of them. But if this baby was a boy, the eldest prince's position in His Majesty's mind would be even more unshakable. His Majesty had very deep feelings for his eldest son. When noble consort Zhuang gave birth to the eldest prince, His Majesty was only a little prince. In those years, the dethroned crown prince and the Lu family were powerful and suppressed several princes who were not on his side. His Majesty didn't even have a wet nurse in his mansion. The eldest prince had no milk, so His Majesty personally milked the goat for him. His Majesty raised this son carefully, so even if he didn't get along with the Zhuang family and had a cold relationship with noble consort Zhuang, he never neglected his eldest son. Empress Xiao suddenly regretted arranging so many errands for the crown princess. Her most important task should be to give birth to a royal grandson as soon as possible. After noble consort Zhuang left, Empress Xiao earnestly urged the crown princess to give birth to a royal grandson. She also gave the crown princess a tonic soup. After doing all this, Empress Xiao also asked someone to call the crown prince over. She asked him to reduce the important matters of the imperial court and give those to his subordinates, so that he could have more time to give birth to a royal grandson with the crown princess. The crown prince was a filial son. That night, he left his official duties behind and returned to the Eastern Palace early. The crown princess sat quietly in the room. On the table was a bowl of medicinal soup that was about to turn cold. Linlang. The crown prince strode into the room. The crown princess stood up, turned around, and bowed to him. "Your Highness." The crown prince stepped forward and held her hand. His eyes were full of gentleness. "I already said that you and I are husband and wife. When there is no one else, you are not allowed to be so distant with me." The crown princess smiled. "Your Highness, why are you back so early? Have you finished dealing with the matters of the Ministry of Personnel?" The crown prince said, "How can those matters be more important than you?" As he spoke, he noticed the medicine on the table. "Is this the medicine that Imperial Mother gave you? Why haven't you drunk it yet? It's almost cold." "It was too hot, just now." The crown princess put down the book in her hand and reached out to pick up the bowl of medicine. "I want to massage them." Xiao Lulang silently took a deep breath and sat down beside Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao's arms were numb. She turned around to face him. Xiao Lulang held one of her hands and massaged her carefully. His movements were very gentle and well-behaved. At most, he only massaged her forearm. "Are you still numb?" Xiao Lulang asked. "Still numb." Gu Jiao lied through her teeth. Xiao Lulang massaged her for a while. It was so comfortable that Gu Jiao almost fell asleep. Xiao Lulang looked at her and took a deep breath. He gently put her hand back on her leg. "Okay, it's getting late. Go back to your room." Gu Jiao, "Okay." Xiao Lulang stood up. "Do you want me to massage you too?" Gu Jiao tilted her head and looked at him. I'm very good at it. You've been working all day. Do you feel dizzy and tired? Her serious eyes seemed to say that if Xiao Lulang said no, he would be a jerk. Xiao Lulang sat down helplessly. Don't sit so far away. Gu Jiao moved her small chair closer to him and pressed it down for him as if it was something important. At first, she was well behaved. But as she massaged him, she felt that something was wrong. Xiao Lulang was puzzled. What did dizziness and fatigue have to do with his chest muscles? Are you sore here? Are you sore here? Here. 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 Xiao Luolang's whole body tensed up. He took a deep breath again. Your shoulders are not sore. My stomach is not sore. He had heard of backaches after sitting for a whole day, but he had never heard of a sore stomach. Gu Jiao, okay. Her little hand changed to another place and continued to massage. She was massaging with great strength. Xiao Lulang did not know how many deep breaths he had taken that night. He closed his eyes and said, My back is not sore. My legs are not sore either. My waist is not sore. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. Okay. His waist was so good. It was strong, and there was not a trace of fat. Gu Jiao smacked her lips and withdrew her hand reluctantly. She withdrew her hand, but her eyes were still glued to his body. Xiao Lulang clenched his fists. What are you doing? Gu Jiao shook her head. No, I'm not drooling. Xiao Lulang, digression, it's the end of the month. Don't waste the monthly tickets. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1133727734. HTML Genius, memorize this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 224. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet will be available here. There was no such thing as awkwardness. Gu Jiao went back to her room contentedly after taking advantage of him. Xiao Lulang was left alone in the living room. It was a little messy. Gu Jiao slept very well this time. Xiao Lulang felt hot and restless. He didn't know why, but he tossed and turned and woke up little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong complained irritably, Are you adults so disobedient? Can't you sleep properly? After being scolded by the little guy, Xiao Lulang really calmed down. He closed his eyes and fell asleep in a short while. There was a spring rain at night, and it stopped at dawn. The ground was wet. Little Jing Kong fell when he went out. He was holding something in his hand today, so he didn't cover his head and body in time when he fell. His knee was scraped a little. Gu Jiao went out and wasn't at home. He frowned and went to the door of the courtyard. He sat on the threshold and put his injured leg in the most conspicuous place. Gu Jiao came back from the market with rice and noodles. She saw the little guy sitting on the threshold with his leg stretched out. She couldn't help but ask, what happened? Little Jing Kong's tears that he had been holding back for the whole morning finally came in handy. He tearfully let go of the place he covered with his hand and said sadly, It hurts. Gu Jiao bent down to take a look. Did you fall again? Yes. He choked and nodded. Gu Jiao carried him into the east room and disinfected him with iodophor. Little Jing Kong said coquettishly, It won't hurt if you blow on it. Gu Jiao held his lotus-like chubby leg and blew on it gently. Yeah, it was so comfortable. Little Jing Kong was so intoxicated that he felt like he was going to faint. Then Xiao Lulang appeared. It's time to go to school. His tone was cold and his eyes were hooked, as if he wanted to grab little Jing Kong from Gu Jiao's arms. Little Jing Kong jumped down from the ground and walked in front of him in small steps. He made a face to show off. I have hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. You have hoo-hoo, but I have pinch. In the end, Xiao Lulang didn't argue with the little guy. He glanced at Gu Jiao in the room and calmly greeted her. Morning. Morning. Gu Jiao smiled. Xiao Lulang's eyes flickered slightly. He calmly led little Jing Kong out of the house. Gu Xiaoshun and Gu Yan also woke up. After breakfast, they went to school. Gu Jiao went to the clinic. Little Zhangli was squatting in the backyard and feeding her little fat rabbit with carrots. Sister Gu. Seeing Gu Jiao coming, little Zhangli walked to her with the little fat rabbit in her arms. I've cleaned the yard. Gu Jiao nodded. You're so obedient. Little Zhangli was no longer sallow and emaciated after resting in the clinic for a while. She had a small face the size of a palm, and her facial features were very beautiful. To be honest, she didn't look like Jiangshi. Maybe one took after her father, and the other took after her mother. This morning, that sister came to play the zither again. Little Zhangli pointed at the wall in Gu Jiao's yard and said, Little Zhangli had lived in a clinic for a long time. She knew that there was a girls' school next door, and a sister came to play the zither every day, sometimes in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon. Gu Jiao asked, Do you want to play? Ah. Little Zhangli was stunned. Can I? Gu Jiao nodded. Yes, there's a zither in the house. Little Zhangli went to play the zither happily. Well, to be exact, she was playing the zither. Little Zhangli and Jiangshi had suffered a lot in the days when they depended on each other. She didn't want to trouble others and was very good at pleasing others. She never messed up the house like little Jing Kong did. She would always clean up the house after playing. Gu Jiao left her to play by herself and went out. Today was the day of Concubine Jing's follow-up visit. Gu Jiao got on the clinic's carriage and went to the nunnery. There was another carriage parked outside the nunnery. Gu Jiao didn't pay it any attention and walked in. Last time, she saw at least 2 nuns here. Today, she didn't see any nuns. Gu Jiao went to Concubine Jing's yard. It rained last night, so the mud was sticky. Gu Jiao slowed down her pace. When she came to the door of the meditation room, Concubine Jing and a familiar voice came from inside. You must take care of yourself. His Majesty misses you. He said that you don't have to wait too long. He'll be able to take you back to the palace in a few days. Don't. I'm used to living here. I like the days when I'm alone. Tell His Majesty not to miss me. What are you talking about, concubine? You raised His Majesty single-handedly. In his heart, you're his mother. How can he not miss you? You've suffered all these years. There's not a day when His Majesty doesn't look forward to taking you back. Go back and tell His Majesty that I'm fine here. Gu Jiao knocked on the door as soon as Concubine Jing said that. The conversation in the room stopped abruptly. Concubine Jing asked, Who is it? It's me, Gu Jiao said. Old Concubine Jing recognized Gu Jiao's voice and said gently, Oh, it's Miss Gu. Please come in. Gu Jiao pushed open the door of the meditation room and walked in. The person in the room glared at her when he saw her. Little divine doctor? It's you? Gu Jiao looked at Eunuch Wei. Eunuch Wei had accompanied the emperor to the medical center once. That was when the emperor was blackmailed by little Jing Kong. Gu Jiao didn't know that he was the emperor. She only knew that he was Chu Yu's father and seemed to be a high-ranking official in the court. As for Eunuch Wei, he was dressed like an ordinary steward. Gu Jiao thought that he was a servant of the Chu clan. It seemed that he wasn't. Do you know each other? Concubine Jing looked at the two in confusion. Eunuch Wei thought that he had seen a ghost. Why did he run into the divine doctor here? The divine doctor didn't hear what he said to Concubine Jing just now, did he? He couldn't have guessed who he was, could he? He was His Majesty's attendant. If the divine doctor guessed that he was a eunuch, wouldn't he have implicated His Majesty as well? Eunuch Wei had an idea. He turned to Concubine Jing and said, "His Majesty once sent me with Lord Chu to visit the injured at the medical center. Miss Gu is a doctor there. We've met before." Lord Chu? Concubine Jing had never heard of this Lord Chu. She's a new official appointed by His Majesty. Eunuch Wei was afraid that he wouldn't be able to cover up his lie, so he quickly changed the topic. "Why is Miss Gu here?" Concubine Jing smiled gently. "She's the junior doctor I told you about." Eunuch Wei was speechless. What kind of fate was this? The divine doctor even treated the old imperial concubine? Ahem. Eunuch Wei was worried that the longer he stayed, the more flaws he would reveal. He said to Grand Concubine Jing, "It's getting late. This servant still has to return to the palace to report to His Majesty. I'll visit Grand Concubine another day." Eunuch Wei left in a hurry. Gu Jiao glanced at Eunuch Wei without saying anything. She began to examine Concubine Jing. She took out her stethoscope. Last time, the old imperial concubine's lungs had been filled with ringing sounds, but they were back to normal now. Gu Jiao took the old imperial concubine's pulse and found that it was much smoother. "How do you feel?" Gu Jiao asked. Concubine Jing smiled. "I feel much better after taking the medicine you gave me. It only flared up twice on the second day, and I'm barely out of breath on the third day." Gu Jiao wasn't surprised by this result. After all, the medicine from the research institute was of the highest quality. Even in her previous world, where medicine was highly developed, it was far more effective than similar medicines. Keep that spray on hand at all times. Use it in case your asthma flares up again. "Okay," Concubine Jing agreed, then looked at Gu Jiao with a benevolent expression. "Thank you for taking the trouble to come see me." Gu Jiao said, "I accepted Concubine Rui Wang's consultation fee." Concubine Jing was startled at first, but she soon understood what Gu Jiao meant. She looked at Gu Jiao's serious expression and burst into laughter. "You're such an interesting child." Concubine Jing laughed uncontrollably. She looked at the clear sky and said, "The sun is out. Are you in a hurry to go back, Miss Gu? If you're not, can you accompany me for a walk outside? I can't go out when my illness flares up, so I've been cooped up in my room for a long time." Okay. Gu Jiao wasn't in a hurry to go back. Concubine Jing put on a cloak and walked out of the courtyard with Gu Jiao. The nunnery wasn't big and disappeared after a few steps. Concubine Jing led Gu Jiao out of the nunnery. The bluestone path in front of the nunnery was very easy to walk on. Gu Jiao had noticed on her way here that even the path in front of the Puji temple wasn't so easy to walk on. Concubine Jing enjoyed the scenery around her and walked slowly. "What do you think of the scenery here, Miss Gu?" "It's all right." Gu Jiao wasn't that interested in mountains and rivers. Concubine Jing smiled. "I think it's quite good. It's better than the imperial palace. There are so many girls who want to enter the palace, but once they do, they'll spend the rest of their lives looking forward to leaving." Gu Jiao felt that Concubine Jing was explaining her conversation with the eunuch. Gu Jiao wasn't a talkative person. Gu Jiao wouldn't say anything even if Concubine Jing didn't explain. However, the conversation between the two had revealed a fact. Concubine Jing had no choice in the nunnery. At least, the emperor believed that she had no choice. The emperor wanted to take her back, but he couldn't do it due to various reasons. However, his wish was about to come true. While Gu Jiao was lost in thought, Concubine Jing suddenly stopped walking. Gu Jiao noticed her body stiffen out of the corner of her eye. Gu Jiao turned to look at her, then looked in front of her. A burly old man in plain clothes had appeared on the path up ahead. Gu Jiao had experienced life and death in the organization in her past life, so she could instantly sense the hidden killing intent coming from the old man. This old man in plain clothes had killed people before. He must have killed quite a few, or he wouldn't have such a sharp killing intent. The other parties soon saw them as well, and he stopped in his tracks. Oh, they knew each other? A complicated look flashed through the old man's eyes. He walked up and cupped his hands in greeting. "Esteemed imperial concubine." Concubine Jing unconsciously tightened her grip on her handkerchief, but her tone didn't change much. Senior Marquis, no need to be so courteous. Gu Jiao didn't think that the old Marquis was Senior Marquis Gu. After all, there were many marquises in the capital. The old Marquis didn't pay much attention to Gu Jiao either. He only thought of her as a servant girl by Concubine Jing's side. Concubine Jing composed herself and asked, "Senior Marquis, are you here to offer incense?" The old Marquis kept his eyes down and didn't look at Concubine Jing's face. "Something happened to the suspension bridge a few days ago. It's just been repaired, so I'm here to take a look." Marquis Gu was in charge of repairing the suspension bridge, so he should have been the one to inspect it. But hadn't he been heavily injured by his own father? Thus, the old Marquis had come in his place. Concubine Jing pretended to be calm, but anyone with a discerning eye could tell that something was wrong with her. "Then, you can go about your business." The old Marquis cupped his hands again and bowed. "Esteemed Imperial Concubine, please take care of yourself." Concubine Jing nodded firmly. The old Marquis turned and left. Concubine Jing looked at his back with a hint of disappointment in her eyes. She then looked at Gu Jiao and smiled. "Let's go back. I'm a bit tired." Gu Jiao took Concubine Jing back to the nunnery and got on the carriage from the medical center. The driver was Xiao Sanzi. Xiao Sanzi asked, "Miss Gu, are we going back directly to the medical center?" Gu Jiao grunted. "All right, sit tight, Miss Gu." Xiao Sanzi waved his whip. "Go." The carriage left the nunnery, passed by the temple, and crossed the stone bridge. The scenery along the way was so beautiful that it reminded Gu Jiao a bit of her days in the countryside. The carriage didn't go very far before another carriage followed. Wherever Gu Jiao's carriage took, that carriage would also take the same path. It was the same after a few turns. At first, she thought that they were going back to the city as well, but they didn't when Xiao Sanzi stopped the carriage at the tea stall and told them to leave first. When Xiao Sanzi drove the carriage on the road, they followed at a distance. Slowly, even Xiao Sanzi began to sense that something was amiss. "Lady Gu, why is that horse carriage following us?" They were about to enter the downtown area at this time. They would reach Chaoyu Street after passing through a narrow path. There was a Chaoyu archway at the end of Chaoyu Street, and they would reach Xuanwu Street after making a turn. "Stop at the alley up ahead," Gu Jiao said indifferently. Digression, the last day of the month. Tickets cleared. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/8964-_89642826/113343536. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.